How's it going, everyone? Today I have a compilation for you of all the craziest stories of the worst teachers ever. I know that a lot of you guys are either in high school or in middle school or have been in high school and middle school. I know you have that terrible teacher story. Well, these are the worst teachers of all time. So sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, leave a like on the video right now to claim your free nothing. With that being said, let's get into the movie. In today's subscriber story, the crazy math teacher gets caught by a student doing, well, I'm not going to spoil it. Enjoy the story. So the subscriber who sent this in was in a math class, and the teacher who, was the teacher of the math class, her name was, let's call her Miss Davenport, right? Don't want to actually use the real names here. By the way, if you want to send in a story, Instagram's in the description. Anyways, right, this was a math class that was pretty difficult in general. It was like an advanced or like an accelerated math class. So it was already at first like pretty difficult, but Miss Davenport was new to the school, so people didn't really know like what her reputation was, how she was going to teach, how difficult she was going to be, but she was incredibly brutal. So, on the first day, some teachers will be like, welcome to the class, this is what we're going to do, and kind of just have try and have a good first impression. Well, Miss Davenport was new to the school, so she was really, this was really her first impression, like everyone's first impression of her. And in the first day of class, she was like, most of you will not succeed in this class. That was her ominous tale in the beginning. A lot of teachers will be like, so this is what we're going over, my office hours or whenever, feel free to reach out to me. Nah, bro, she was like, most of you will not succeed. So everyone in the class was like, okay. So 3 weeks into the school year is their first official test. And the test is 45 minutes because the class period is 45 minutes. And it was on the first unit, which was somewhat review, but there was some new stuff. And they just, they knew it was the accelerated class, so they expected the test to be pretty difficult. Subscriber and his classmates, they were in class, they were sitting there, they were waiting, right? They get there 5 minutes early to prepare. And people are kind of talking to each other, and the subscriber's like, hey, do you feel prepared for this? And someone's like, well, this is all kind of review stuff, but I have no idea what to expect. When you get into a class, the first test is always a pretty good gauge of how difficult the teacher will be, even though sometimes teachers get easier throughout the semester just because they want to make sure people, don't, coast into the midterm, right? Anyway, so they're waiting there, and it's 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then the class is supposed to be starting. And they're looking at the door, and, Miss Davenport's not there. They normally would expect a teacher to get there kind of a little bit before, especially if there's a test. Miss Davenport was always on time or a minute late. She was one of the last people to enter the classroom normally, which isn't good looks for a teacher, but whatever. But they kind of just assumed on a test day that, she would at least take things a bit more serious and, show up 10 minutes, 15 minutes early to make sure all the copies have been printed out. And, a couple minutes go by, it's 3 minutes past, and people are starting to look at each other hey, we only have 45 minutes for this test. Do you think she's not coming? 5 minutes have passed, and people are like, dude, she might not be coming. And then on the 9th minute, Miss Davenport comes through the door and has a bunch of tests in her hand, and she's like, all right, guys, test time. And they're just looking at each other like, hey, yo, we only have 45 minutes, and you've already lost 10 minutes? We only have 35 minutes left. She starts handing out copies of the test, and everyone's like, one person eventually spoke up and said, not to be disrespectful or anything, but can we maybe take this test another time as it's already pretty far into the class time? She said, no, you'll be fine. And so everyone's like, okay, maybe this test is super easy, and she knows that it doesn't matter, and that's why she was late and doesn't think that we should redo it at a different time. No, the material was basically impossible. It even included some stuff that apparently she had not even gone over at that time, and it was stuff for the next unit. And when someone asked about it, she said, oh, you should be able to figure this out. And yeah, so no one was able to figure it out, and having a little less than 25% less time than they were told that they would have really didn't help, but the test was already pretty impossible by itself. So, they went home that weekend, and on Sunday they checked Canvas, and yeah, most everyone failed that test. And on Canvas, the app that a lot of people use, you can actually see what the average is for a lot of tests. The average was a 50. And, Miss Davenport sent out an email saying, I'm satisfied with how the first set of tests went. There will be no curve. And everyone's like, you're satisfied? So that was the first test of the year. So they already knew that this was not going to be a fun class. So a couple weeks in, they have a quiz. And a quiz isn't as big of a deal of a test, but quizzes add up, right? So the subscriber, he does the quiz, he hands it in, and Miss Davenport says, "Oh, you didn't put your name on it." He says, "Oh, my fault. Let me just put my name on it." And she says, "Nope, you already handed it in." And the guy's like, "I'm right here. You caught it, right? I just handed in a second ago. I can easily put my name on it." Subscriber was a little bit worried because of the way that she was like, "You didn't put your name on it." And then she was like ominously like, "It's too late now. You can't put your name on it now." Where he literally could have just like gotten the paper handed back. He even had his pencil in his hand when he was walking up. So he could have easily just like scribbled in his name. And yeah, he checked Canvas like in a couple days and he got a 0. He didn't even fail it. He got a 0 because he didn't put his name on the test. He got a 0. So he's not doing well in this class, but he's pretty unhappy with how it's being taught. And she's also just not very nice or friendly at all. And also a bad teacher. It's just a mess, a complete mess. The entire class is a complete mess. So he starts asking around, like this is about a month in, he starts asking around to other people, like, "How was your experience in this class?" And they're telling him similar, like, horror stories. Like, everyone kind of knew about the tests that were brutal and the fact she was late, but, like, no one really knew, like, who was, like, getting, like, individually screwed over by this teacher. For example, people were shocked to hear that he handed in the story I just told you about the quiz with no name and how he got a 0, even though he said, "I'll happily put my name on it." And there were other kind of stories similar to that, but I don't want to have this story go on too much of a tangent as it gets pretty juicy pretty soon, and I don't want to, like, lead away from that. All you need to know, she's been doing similar stuff to other people, and the class overall was starting to feel like she was screwing them over on purpose, and they weren't so happy about it. Pause. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. All right, back to the story. Anyways, right, so the subscriber and a couple people he's talking to in the class, they decide that, like, okay, let's actually get, like, a group chat together where we can, like, discuss and see if everyone else is on the same page here. Because the subscriber was so caught off guard that other stuff had been happening to other people as well. He thought she just like didn't like him specifically and was overall mean. But no, she'd been individually screwing over other people. And apparently some of the other things were worse, but I wasn't even like told what they were. But anyways, right, so they decided to get a group chat together. And that night, you know, they add basically everyone to the class. They don't add a few people because there's some people that are, I don't want to say suspicious, but some people that seem to like always be answering in the front of the class, and that's good. I actually encourage that. But the subscriber basically said they added almost everyone, but they didn't want someone to snitch on it, so they didn't add a few people. But they actually ended up adding them later because they talked to them later, and they were on the same page as well. They were just try-harding really hard because the class was really hard, and everyone was practically failing. So they get this whole group chat together, and everyone is just coming out with horror stories about this teacher, things that are just like somehow twice as bad or 3 times as bad as what happened to this guy individually. And, you know, for not writing your name on a piece of, on your quiz and like getting a 0 for that, even when you could have easily done it, that's pretty bad. But there are things like 2-3 times as bad, apparently. And the whole class came together saying basically like, this can't continue. So the following, I'm going to say I do not condone. I do not condone spying on anyone, sneaking around, or anything like that. But it's a very interesting story, and it gets pretty exciting and dramatic and all that. So I thought I'd tell it on the channel. Just wanted to give that little tiny disclaimer before I move on. So someone in the group had been saying something about how he found like, he saw the principal and this new teacher, you know, hanging out a lot, and said that like the principal and Miss Davenport are suspiciously close with each other. If you don't know, like, unless like someone comes in already married, you're not allowed to like date within, like, a supervisor cannot date some kind of subordinate because, you know, the principal apparently like has influence on, I don't know, like the salaries of the teacher. And unless they like disclose that or they come in married already, like that's a pretty big no-no. So then someone in the class was like, okay, well, there's a decent shot that, you know, they're just, you know, friends. But on the slight occasion that they happen to be more than friends and we can catch them, like Miss Davenport will just no longer be teaching the class. And honestly, like if I'm going to slip in here for a second, it would be better to go to Miss Davenport directly with your concerns instead of trying to get her fired. But once again, disclaimer out of the way, I'm just telling the story. Don't come after the messenger. This is just for entertainment purposes. But anyways, so what they decide to do is they decide to delegate a few people in the group as kind of spies to kind of snoop around and see if they can catch Miss Davenport and the teacher doing anything they shouldn't be doing. Today's secret word of the day is spy. So if you made it this far into the video, I want you to go down the comment section and comment spy down below. I'll try and heart as many as I can, but there's just been so many comments, which I do appreciate, but it just means I can't heart all of them. But comment spy and you'll probably get a heart, and maybe you'll get top commenter or whatever. Anyways, back to the story. So the subscriber and a few of his other classmates, they kind of agreed to be the spies, including the one that said that he had the initial suspicion. So it was the subscriber and 3 other people were, delegated to, kind of just keep an extra eye, like just kind of like not even keep an extra eye, but honestly go on reconnaissance missions to try and find it's just to try and prove that they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. I don't even want to underplay it. It was like a super spy operation. Anyway, so the subscriber and the 3 other people, it's a Friday, and they decide to just, wait around after school. Wait around after school to see, where the principal and or Miss Davenport end up going. And obviously, right, they have some boundaries. They're not going to go back to their, places of residence. I mean, spying on people in general and sneaking around, like, that's not good. I do not endorse that. But once again, I'm just telling the story. Anyways, but they do have some limitations. So they're not going to go to their place of residence. They're not going to, like, intentionally, like, stalk them too hard. I don't know what that means. But anyways, right, they see Miss Davenport and she is walking down the street. And like about a 5-minute walk away is this kind of like part of the town that they're near that has a lot of shops and like food places. So if she's just going down there, they're going to follow along just like a little bit behind. Anyways, so, they start walking down the street, and Miss Davenport is very, very clearly going to this kind of like section of town where all the food shops are. And they decide to, they go and kind of follow her down there. And they notice that she goes to this really popular cafe. So she walks in there, and unfortunately, right, the windows, they aren't tinted, but it's like at the right time of day, and the windows are cloudy enough that they can't really see clearly in there. But they know that she went in there. So they kind of like looked at each other, and they're like, we need one of you guys to go in there and kind of see like what she's doing, right? We want to know if she's like actually like, if she's meeting up with the principal or not. And if she isn't, then maybe this was all for nothing. But there's a chance she is. And if our suspicion is right, then like, I don't know, we could have an actual normal year in math potentially. So, they look around at each other. No one really wants to do it. But the subscriber pipes up and says, you know what? I'll do it. So with like a little bit of video proof so that people will actually believe him and that they might, begin to build a case in a sense. So what he does is he turns on his phone camera. And while it's very obvious if you're like recording someone, what he did was he just had it on like the whole time. So he didn't like turn it on and start recording. So he would kind of naturally walk in there, look like he's checking his phone. And then if he wanted to get a really clear video of them, he would make it look like he was taking a snap to someone. So it almost looked like he was like moving his phone up to like take a Snapchat photo in their direction. But then he would continue doing it and make it look like he was just passing time, right? So he went into the coffee shop. So he goes in the coffee shop, and at first he can't really find Miss Davenport. So he's kind of just like looking around a little bit. And then, he decides, okay, I'm just going to sit down. I'm just going to try and like check things out. So he sits down at one of the window seats, and he's looking out. And he's just kind of waiting. He's like, did she just stop in here quickly? Did she like exit out the back or something? And as he's about to like get up and leave and be like, guys, this was like a dead end. Like there was like, it's whatever, it's over, right? He kind of feels like he wants to like, stop by the bathroom. I don't know, he had to go pee or something. And he's walking down to the bathroom, and he still has his phone out, and his phone is still recording. And as he's walking to the bathroom, he sees in the very seat at the very, very back, Miss Davenport. And who else would it be sitting with her but yes, the principal. So anyways, he kind of like perks up, and he looks down at his phone, and he does get it. He catches it on camera. He's like, okay. And he rushes over to the bathroom, slips in there really quickly, and is just like chilling on his phone for a second. And he stops the recording. He looks at it, and yes, he gets them. He gets them on camera. It's not the greatest recording of all time, but it's good enough to like prove to his friends that, yeah, they were there. So he kind of like collects his stuff, puts his phone away, opens the bathroom door, and since like the table was far enough in the corner that like he could open the door enough to kind of like cover his identity, and he kind of just like quickly power walked out of there, out of the cafe to his friends. He explained what happened, showed them the video, and then that night they went on the group chat. He told everyone what happened. He sent the video, and everyone's like, okay, that's really suspicious. Like and the dude was like, I told you guys, right? And then one person kind of like piped up and said, hey, like we cannot go to them with a case if this is the only thing we have, because this can be explained away. And everyone's like, but dude, it's so suspicious. It's so weird. And the guy's like, I know, but they could just be friends. They could be talking about work. And even if they're not, even if they actually are up to something, if we just go to them with this, they'll explain it away. We'll get in more trouble. She'll probably be worse to us in class. And then afterwards, they'll be much more careful and we'll never be able to form another case again. And then someone's like, okay, you kind of got a point. So the subscriber and the three other kind of like spies or messengers or, you know, whatever we want to call them, right, say, you know what, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going with the case. So the subscriber and the three other people who were like the spies were a little like not totally sure what they were going to do next. So someone just suggested to them saying, how about you just kind of like camp out the classroom and just see if like either of them go in there and like, or leave from it. Like just camp outside the classroom for the next like week or so and be like, you know, careful about it. You don't want to get caught or anything, but that's kind of like our only chance. Subscriber and the other guys that were doing the thing with them, right? After class, you know, after school, I should say, right as like her last class ends, they kind of camp outside her classroom and they kind of like, there's like behind the hall, there's like another classroom that's kind of like empty and open. So what they do is they camp out there and they have their laptops and they're pretending to do work, but they also have a very clear view of the classroom without having the classroom, anyone like walking into it, having a clear view of them. So the first day of camping out, they look out there, nothing's really happening for like an hour. And then eventually, you know, the teacher leaves, right? You know, Miss Davenport just leaves and nothing happens. And they're kind of bummed out because they're like, we camped all this time for nothing. And the subscriber's like, all right, we're coming back tomorrow. And the other guys were like, dude, this might just be nothing. And he's like, okay, well, we'll do this for a week. And if it doesn't pay off after a week, then the case is just closed and we're just going to have to fail this math class. Again, I'm going to step in here for a second. Guys, if you have problems with your teachers, don't do this. Talk to them, but whatever. This is an interesting story. Anyways, they come back the next day and they're sitting there and they're sitting there again. And the other guys are like, dude, this is going to be the same thing as it was yesterday. She's going to like grade stuff in our classroom and then leave. And it's going to be a total waste of time. And the subscriber's like, we just got to hold out. We got to do this. We said we'd do it. We're going to do it. And it was like 45 minutes in. And one of the guys was like, okay, I'm going to leave in 10. Like I'm very bored. And as he said that, he sees who else, right? Who else would it be? The principal walks into that classroom and shuts the door. And they're like, oh my God, what do we do? Like, what are we going to do? They can't necessarily walk in right away because they won't catch them doing anything right away, but they also don't want to wait too long. So what they decide is someone who, not the subscriber, one of the other guys decides to quickly walk by the classroom in about 2 minutes, right? He waits 2 minutes and then he quickly walks by the classroom. And then once he walks by, he's going to give them either a thumbs up, which means go in there recording, right? That this is the big sting operation, or a thumbs down, it's not worth it. So the guy walks by the classroom, he looks into the door briefly and like sprints by. Like once he's done, he just sprints by. He turns around with this face of shock and like a little bit of a smile and has 2 big thumbs up. And the subscriber like is feeling super nervous to do this, but what he does, he turns on his camera, he does it in kind of like an incognito way, so it's not super obvious he's recording, and the other 2 people who are in the class as well go up to the door and just open it. It's not locked, which is a big mistake on their part. And what do they see? They see Miss Davenport and the principal doing some things they should not be doing. And their cover was they were coming in to like ask, Miss Davenport for like help on the math or whatever. And, Miss Davenport just looks at them. And the principal just looks at them. And they're like, oh, can we have help on math? Oh. And they're like, oh, so sorry. We should have knocked. Like, bye. And they just run out of there. They just run out of there. And they run to like down the hall. And they go around. And then they exit the school. They're all panting. They're like, did you get that on camera? Did you get that on camera? And the subscriber's like, I don't know. And they check the camera. They look through the feed. It's a little shaky. But there we go. A very clear image/video of exactly what they needed. So they quickly sent, the video and the whole story to the group chat. And within like a day, they sent a report in because that was like a Friday or something. So, they had the weekend to send in the report. And by the time everyone came into class on Monday, there was kind of no teacher right away, which they assumed Ms. Davenport was just late again. But then a substitute came in and they said, hey, I'm going to be filling in for your teacher for the week. After that week was over, Miss Davenport, believe it or not, did not come back. And and it was a new math teacher. And she came in, she said, "Hey, I'm Miss, whatever, right? I'm going to be your new math teacher. Just kind of help me out, get me caught up where you guys were left off. And I think we're going to have a great year together." And this teacher was actually great. And by the way, they also got a new principal within 2 weeks as well. And that was not how I expected the story to go when I was reading it, but I thought I had to tell it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and watch another story if you're bored. In today's story, the subscriber has a crazy substitute teacher who literally does the unthinkable, and, I'm just not going to spoil it. Enjoy the story. So the subscriber's in 6th grade, and he's in a history class. And in this history class, it's kind of like a world history class. It's kind of like an everything history class. But they're currently on a unit on Europe. That'll be important later on, not just like random useless details, I promise. So one day the subscriber, and let's just call him Jimmy. I have not been giving the subscriber like a name recently. I've been calling him the subscriber. Let's call him Jimmy. Who doesn't love a good old Jimmy, right? So Jimmy came to class one day, and he thinks history class is okay. He likes the teacher. He thinks the subject is okay. It's not his favorite class. It's not Jimmy's favorite class, right? But he still enjoys it. It's a decent class. Teacher's nice enough. It's not too hard. It's just kind of like a chill class with some okay people in it. Some of his friends, some people he's kind of boys with. It's a decent enough class. So one day, Jimmy walks into his history class, right? And, he gets in there, and normally the teacher's the first one in the class. Normally the teacher's there like, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes early, just because it's the first class of the day. They get there early anyways, and the kids have to do like a morning meeting or something, or they have to do like meet up with their advisors. I don't know what they're doing, but basically just know that the teacher gets there before the students. So anyways, right, Jimmy just walks into his history class one day, and he gets there like, right as he's supposed to, which, you're only supposed to get there honestly a couple minutes before when you're quote unquote supposed to. But Jimmy always kind of rode the line, but he was never really late by more than like 30 seconds or a minute. It worked out for him, and the teacher never complained. So he gets there at his normal time of basically being a second away from being late. And as always, everyone in the class is there, except this time, his normal teacher isn't there. So he kind of just he thinks it's a little weird, as this is the first time he's been here before the teacher, and he just kind of sits down and, he starts talking to one of his friends who he normally sits next to. It's as always, the beautiful, the wonderful, the glorious, the fabulous, unassigned assigned seats. So much better than assigned seats. Ugh. Just shivers run down my spine when I hear someone say that. Anyways, right, he's sitting there, he's talking with his friend, and they're looking at the clock, and it's like 1 minute past, and then it's 2 minutes past, and as time goes on, minute by minute, right, they're just like, guys, why is the teacher not here? And then all of a sudden, 7 minutes past when the class is actually supposed to happen, the door slams open, and this woman walks in. And they're all just kind of like, hello? The woman walks in and says, "Hi, I'm your substitute teacher." And they're like, "Oh, shoot, our teacher's out for the day." And they're like, "Welcome, hope you enjoy your stay," or whatever. Whatever kids say, I don't know. Anyway, so the substitute teacher walks in. She explains, that she's the sub for the day. And, she says, "Okay, so what are we guys learning?" And they just kind of look at her like, okay, teacher. We're learning about European history right now. And she says, "Oh, yeah, I know a thing about Europe," or whatever. And they're kind of just looking at her because she's really weirdly unprofessional. And I'm not saying you have to have some some kind of a British accent and speak like the Queen or something to teach a class. But, she was kind of holding herself not like a teacher would. And she was kind of acting kind of sloppily. I don't mean it weirdly like that. You guys are weird. But anyways, right. So she's like, "Okay, European history or whatever. Sure, we can do that." Everyone's just totally weirded out by the way she's acting. She's acting really weird. But she's like, "Yeah, okay, we can do European history. Anyone know where we start?" And the class is like, "Oh my God, this substitute teacher knows nothing." And they were feeling bad at first, man. They thought that it was actually... it wasn't her fault, right? They thought that it was so last minute that their teacher canceled so last minute that the substitute was kind of just thrown in there and had no idea what to do. Jimmy, the subscriber, the one who sent in this story, you can send in stories too to my Instagram, linked in the description, or the app is in the description. Jimmy, such a wonderful kid, right? Such a good guy. He decides, he says, "Hey, substitute, here's my textbook.
we're probably today, I looked on the syllabus the day before, we're learning from page, like, I don't know, like 50 to 60 or whatever, or 50 to 55, doesn't really matter. She's like, oh, thanks, like, appreciate it. Can I see that? And Jimmy's like, yeah, sure. Comes up to the front of the class, hands her the textbook, goes to sit back down. And they're all just like, they're sitting down, and some of them were kind of giving Jimmy the side eye because they kind of thought that they would be able to get away with not doing anything today. So, yeah, not everyone was a fan of Jimmy being, the angel child of the class. But honestly, man, he did the right thing. They were going to have to learn it eventually, and it was either like, they were either going to learn it like in the normal time they were supposed to, or they'd have to learn it crammed into one day, and then they wouldn't be, whatever, right? Either way, Jimmy did what he did. And they're all sitting there, and Jimmy's like being like, oh, maybe that wasn't the greatest idea. I could have gotten away with doing nothing today, but whatever, man. Like, whatever. It is what it is. Like, I did the right thing. Teacher will be so proud, or whatever. I don't know. And the thing is, like, right, the teacher looks at the textbook. She gives it a she's kind of like squinting, and she's kind of like, and she kind of looks up at the class, and they all kind of look back at her like, do you have any questions, substitute? Like, do you have any questions about this? The substitute teacher was just like looking at the text so intensely. And then she looks up at the class and says, I thought Europe was a country. And everyone's like, what? Jimmy said that he thought at first that she was joking, right? That she was just like having some laughs, having some goofs. Like, okay, she's the funny guy here, right? Nah, she was like, everyone kind of at first, like some people did really think that she was joking around, having a little bit of a jest, right? Just goofs, whatever, all for the good laughs. But she looks at them with a very sincere face. She's looking at them like, guys, I thought Europe was a country. And they all just look back at her like, oh, ma'am, like, you're mistaken. I don't think you're qualified to teach this class. But anyways, right, nevertheless, she plows along. She starts reading through the textbook, and normally where the history teacher would have been like looking at the textbook briefly for reference and then teaching the history, the substitute was just reading from the textbook, which, at the end of the day, she's a substitute. Maybe she was like studying math or whatever. Maybe she's better at, I don't know, like other fields of study and not European history, which if she thought Europe was a country, then I really hope she did not major in European history, but anyways. Anyway, she keeps going until she hits another point in the history textbook that she's very confused about, because the United States of America comes up. And at this point, they were looking at history in Europe when the United States of America was founded, right? And she looks at it and she's like, wait a minute, this is wrong. And they're like, oh, you found an error in the textbook. Like maybe there's a grammatical error. Maybe there's a date that's wrong. Maybe the photo is supposed to be of George Washington, but they put Daffy Duck instead. Who knows? She says, it says here that America wasn't America founded in 1945? Yeah, America was founded in 1945. And the whole class just looks at her with their mouths like dropped on the floor. They're just like, dude, there's no way. There's no way. There's literally no way. There's no shot. There's no shot, guys. No, she didn't just say that. No shot did she just say. They'll look at her like, nope, sorry. United States of America was not founded in, what did you say, 1945? No, that was not the case, substitute. That was, Miss Substitute Teacher. Nope, not the case. The secret phrase of the day is, you guessed it, 1945. So if you made it this far into the video, comment 1945 down below. I just like to see how many people made it this far into the video, because we gotta pay some homage to the founders of the United States in 1945 when the United States was obviously founded. So make sure to comment that down below. And yeah, while you're at it, subscribe and leave a like, and you'll receive literally nothing. I'm feeling generous today, boys. Feeling extra generous. So yeah, do that. Yeah. So 1 like on this video equals 1 cool history fact, such as the United States was founded in 1945 or Europe is a country. Anyways, yeah, back to the story, because it gets worse. It literally gets worse. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it gets, just listen to the story. So at this point, the kids are just completely shocked. Everyone in the class, including Jimmy, right, is just like, dude, what? Why? Right? And then all of a sudden, right, when you thought that the teacher, like the substitute teacher, was bad, right, she says, all right, I need to take a break. What? It's a 45-minute class. You came in 7 minutes late. Why do you need to take a break? Why do you need a break? Bro, you're being paid to teach a class and you miss like 20% of it already. That math was probably wrong, but 15% of it or whatever, right? And you're only here for like 40, 35 more minutes, or total. You're probably at that point only had like 20 minutes left. You're like, dude, I need a break. No, this is too much work for me. So anyways, right, she whips out her phone and starts calling someone. The whole class is like, what? Okay, so when she takes out her phone, right, she's like, hey, babe. When someone like picks up, she's like, hey, baby. And the whole class is like, hey, yo, like, what? What? And they're just like, please don't be weird. Please do not be weird. They're all just sitting there, and she's looking at the phone, and she's like, kind of like twisting her hair, and then she bites her lip a little bit. Everyone's like, yo, what? And she's like, yeah, I've been bad. And the whole class is like, yo, dude, what? And she's like, I'm ready to be punished. And the whole class is like, yeah. Right, so Jimmy, good old Jimmy, just solid kid Jimmy, right? 10 out of 10, outstanding guy. 10 out of 10, 3 stars. 3 out of 3 stars, by the way. He's like, he raises his hand, because he's just done with this. He's just done, right? He raises his hand, and he's like, can I go to the bathroom? And she looks at him quickly like, yeah, whatever. And then goes back to, like, her moan fest or whatever with her boyfriend on the phone, while the entire class is just completely pale-faced and in shock anyways, right? So Jimmy, he makes his escape plan. And by the way, a little tip, little hint for you guys. He has no plans on going to the bathroom at all. Yeah, Jimmy was not about to go to the bathroom on this one. Jimmy instead walks right by the bathroom, right up the hallway, and right to the principal's office. And he goes up and he knocks on the door. And the principal kind of like, says, come on in, like... And then he looks and he's like, oh, Jimmy, I didn't really expect you to be here. Because it wasn't the biggest school. And the principal kind of knew... he kind of knew the people, right? He had some good... He made an effort to make conversations with people. And he also knew, like, who, frequently was sent to the principal's office. And Jimmy was not one of these kids. He just wasn't, right? So he's like, oh, Jimmy, like, why are you here? Like, I don't normally see you here. I think the principal assumed that, like, Jimmy got in trouble or something. And he's just not used to that. And Jimmy says, I don't really know how to explain this, so I'm just going to tell you everything. And I'm not gonna, I just told you guys everything, right? I'm not going to tell you it all again. Jimmy basically just tells you the story that I just told you guys, right? And the principal, his face, like, throughout the entire story, it just got, like, from, like, some kind of, like, a nice, like, kind of, like, smile, friendly, whatever, to, like, a straight face, to, like... Do you know that Mr. Incredible meme where his face just gets, like, darker and darker and just, like, more and more just, like he's seen something terrible, like, again and again, and got worse and worse? So basically, the principal's face started out, like, on the left, and by the end of the story, it was, like, the face on the right, basically. And, then Jimmy eventually finishes his story. He's like, and then I decided to, obviously not go to the bathroom, man. Like, I don't even have to go pee. Like, I couldn't even go if I wanted to, right? But instead, I decided to come see you. And that's where we are now. And the principal just looks at him. He's like, we're going to your classroom right now. You're coming with me. So they get back to the classroom, right? They're walking down the hallway. Jimmy is, like, kind of, like, falling behind a little bit. This principal's a big guy, and he's having a very, very firm pace. So Jimmy has to even jog a little bit, man. Like, he's trying to catch up. They get to the classroom, and it's just a bunch of kids sitting there, and there's no substitute teacher to be found. And the principal's like, yo, Jimmy, like, why is no one here? And Jimmy's like, what? And the class is like, yeah, the substitute teacher actually just left. And some kid in the class, let's call him Arthur, right? He was kind of a bit of a quiet kid. He also had a side business of selling illegal test answers. He was actually a criminal warlord. Anyways, right? So Arthur, right? This kid. He didn't do any of that, by the way. But anyways, right? He pipes up and he says, yeah, on the way, she just, like, got up and said, bye, kids. Like, by the way, not even a substitute, lol. And then she just left. I don't know if she said, like, lol, but that'd be pretty funny if she did. And the principal's face was like, she said, what? And he checks his phone and he opens up his email and he's like, I gotta go. Class dismissed early. And everyone's like, yay, class is out. But it was only like 5 minutes early or whatever, right? And, Jimmy's just confused at this point. So I'm not totally sure how Jimmy figured this out, but later on, like a couple days later, I don't think a week later, but at least a couple days later, right? He figures out that, or he learned somehow, I think like maybe got leaked to a parent and then his mom told him, or somehow he learned that like the substitute teacher that was there that day was not their substitute teacher. And apparently, right, the principal, when he checked his email, what he saw was an email from the the substitute teacher agency that like gives them subs saying like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like the sub that we had ready for you just called out sick like a couple minutes ago and we don't have anyone ready. We're so sorry. You might have to cancel the class. So apparently, right, some random woman just walked into the class and no one like she was just apparently like just looking around for like an empty classroom, assuming that like maybe someone needed a substitute or something. And yeah, she just walked right in and no one questioned anything. And let me just say that, after that day, the Jimmy, right, he started seeing like guards in the school. He started seeing like, actual guards and stuff. And there's actual like protocol after that moment. Apparently it was like a major breach in safety. Obviously, like the only like damage that was done was one kid in that class, probably that Arthur kid, probably now thought the United States was founded in like 1945 or something. But yeah. Subscribe if you haven't already, and now go watch another story video, unless you're bad. I don't know. In today's story, the teacher makes the biggest mistake of their life by leaving their mic on. Enjoy. So the subscriber who sent this in, let's call him Jimmy, right? So Jimmy, good kid. He's in this English class. And this English class is happening over Zoom. I'm not 100% sure when this happened. Maybe he's still in Zoom class. Maybe this was like over a year ago. But anyways, he's in this English class and he's doing it over Zoom. And Jimmy's teacher, let's call him Mr. Savage, right? Let's call this guy Mr. Savage. Anyway, so Mr. Savage, English teacher man, right? He's a cool dude, I guess. I mean, the kids thought that until, what happened in the story, which I'll tell you in a second. But anyways, right, they thought he's a pretty cool dude. I mean, like, he wasn't like, he wasn't like, like, you guys, you seem stressed out, I'll give you less homework. But he also wasn't like, you guys seem stressed out. 3 tests tomorrow, 2 quizzes, final project due tomorrow as well, and yeah, we'll probably have a pop quiz, and all your homework is due for the rest of the year. It's due tomorrow as well. He wasn't one of those teachers, so he was fine enough. Anyways, on this day, this soon-to-be very notorious day, but Jimmy didn't think that going in. This would just seem like a normal English class to him. He gets in, he logs in on a Zoom, and it's going to be a good day in his mind because, a couple minutes in, when everyone joins the Zoom meeting, everyone in his class is there. Mr. Savage, he announces that, you know what? We're watching a movie today, which, everyone's ecstatic. I think it's pretty universal that whenever it's a movie being watched in class, even if the movie is boring, even if you couldn't care less, even if part of you might have wanted to actually do the actual work in class and the movie isn't the greatest option, if you hear that there's a movie, you're ecstatic. And the class has this GroupMe group chat. I don't know if you guys use GroupMe, but for some reason in the last 3 years, literally every communication with a group of people, for me, I've used GroupMe, and why that app specifically, it doesn't even matter, right? So the class is a GroupMe, and you see a couple of people be like, let's go, baby, and just oh man, this is gonna be good. And they didn't even care what they were watching. Because the thing is, especially in Zoom classes, I don't know about you guys, but I think it's pretty common that, the attention levels were not at 100,000%, right? And especially if he's going to put on a movie that no one was really going to care about, right? And then all of a sudden, all the Zoom, you turned off your camera, you turned off your mic, you're watching the movie, right? Huge quotes. You're watching it, you're just going to mess around for the 45 minutes or an hour or whatever, right? Anyway, so Mr. Savage is not the most, technically proficient teacher ever, which is fine. I mean, I'm not the most, technically proficient when it comes to Zoom anyways. What? I've definitely, been I don't know what I'm doing on here. It's fair enough, right? It is what it is. These things happen. But anyways, right, Mr. Savage, sets up another window. Somehow he, logs in on another account to screen share the movie. I don't know why he didn't just screen share it on his own account. Maybe he was planning on being busy doing something else. Wink. Not going to spoil it. I always say I'm not going to spoil it, and this is the first time I didn't actually spoil it. In like the last 3 videos, I said the crucial detail. I'm like, I'm not going to spoil it, guys. But this time, I just gave you a hint. I didn't spoil it. Are you proud? Are you proud of me? Anyways, right, so Mr. Savage, he sets up like another window somehow. He has like another account log into Zoom. And on that other account, maybe he has like dual monitors. I don't know. Maybe he's a big gamer guy. I don't even know, man. But, he has like, he logs in with another account, screen shares the movie. And yeah, he starts letting it play. He turns off his camera on his main account and he does not mute his microphone on his main account. This guy was technically proficient enough to like add another, person to another, like one of his computers to the Zoom class, screen share, but man, just, he got sloppy. He got sloppy towards the end and he just didn't mute his mic. And unfortunately, man, when it comes to Zoom, the details, it's all in the details. If you forget to like mute your mic, you forget to turn off your camera, you just forget to screen share the fact that you're live streaming, cheating all the answers, right? The small little failures like that will completely, they'll get you. Right, so everyone's in class, everyone's just having a good time. The movie starts to play, no one is paying attention to the movie. As expected, right? This isn't some kind of like crazy revelation or something. And they're in the group me and everyone's like, dude, like this is great, this is sick. Like I really like wasn't feeling it anyways. The fact that we get to come in and kind of do nothing for an hour is pretty cool. And one person was like, oh, dude, like, I'm going to actually go leave for like 10, 15 minutes. I'm going to have my phone on me. So please text the group chat if he starts asking us questions. Or for some reason, I just got to be back, man. But, I'm going to take advantage of, the blessed opportunity I've been given by this movie being played and just go and like, I'm just going to go mess around for a little bit. Like, I'll see you guys around, guys. And everyone was all, in this group me was all just like, feeling very good, just having a very nice, cordial time. But then someone in the group me was like, LOL, like Mr. Savage, he didn't mute his mic. Ahaha, let's hope nothing weird happens. That kid jinxed it. I really hope they went and beat up that kid. I'm joking. I am joking. But yeah, that kid jinxed it. It's 100% his fault, actually. Like, if we're putting blame on anyone, don't put it on poor Mr. Savage. He doesn't know, he can't, like, decipher the difference between a rock and a computer. It's not his fault, man. It's this kid. It's this kid for setting him up. Anyways, things are pretty normal, right? And, Jimmy, the subscriber, I really hope I named him Jimmy earlier on because I have in my notes that I'm going to call the subscriber Jimmy. So if I didn't, his name is Jimmy now. Get over it. Get over yourself. Like, just deal with it is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, right, Jimmy, the subscriber, the guy who sent this in, you can send this. You can send in stories to my Instagram. It's in the description of the video. Anyways, right, things are pretty normal, but then, he does notice, right? He does notice a little rustling sound, like some movement is coming from Mr. Savage, right? Mr. Savage himself, like just a little rustling, a little movement is coming from, like, you can just hear, like, him moving around. Totally normal, like unlucky he left his mic on, like that's unlucky, right? But he just thought it'd end there, and he's like, Mr. Savage, like, starts like, if he gets on the phone or something, or I don't know, something embarrassing like that, like, or just a little embarrassing, right? Or maybe it's just the right call to like go in and tell him his mic isn't muted. But right now, like, no harm, no foul. Like, dude, it doesn't really matter, right? It is what it is. Like, I don't want to interrupt the movie because maybe if I interrupt it, maybe, I don't know, he'll start asking me questions and oh my God, I've not been paying attention. It's only been 7 minutes, but I have not been paying attention. But all of a sudden, right, instead of rustling sounds, because the microphone went mute for a while, right? And the sound of the volume of the movie was like took over again. You start hearing the subscriber, Jimmy, is just like, he doesn't really believe what he hears at first, but he starts hearing like the sounds of like anime or something. He's like, what? And yeah, no, it's like the sounds of anime coming from, Mr. Savage's computer. And then everyone in the group me lights up, man. The group me just goes insane. It's like, Mr. Savage watches anime. That's so funny. Like, I could totally hang with this guy. Like all this kind of stuff. Because, anime is cool. I have not gotten into it personally. I think it's cool. Like, I definitely could. If actually leave your suggestions in the comment section down below, because I might unironically watch something you suggest. Anyways, right? Everyone's like, oh, that's so funny. Like, like, that's cool. That's cool. Like, Mr. Savage, he's on the cool list now. He gets the thumbs up. He gets the plus. He gets the big, like, yes, he's the cool. Let me just say, it turns South, it goes bad. It goes bad so fast. It was so good for a second. It was so good, man. It was so good. Before I get into the downfall of Mr. Savage, basically, secret word of the day is anime. So if you made it this far into the video, comment anime down below. I'm going to try and heart as many of those as I can, but I just can't get to them all, unfortunately. I do my best, and I really do want to show my appreciation for you guys giving me that wonderful, wonderful watch time, you know. So I'll do my best, but unfortunately no guarantees. It is what it is. But yeah, comment anime down below. And while I have your attention, right, every couple of videos I'll shout out a random channel member. So yeah, just to this guy on screen or gal or whoever, right? I appreciate it. Appreciate you being a channel member. If you want to join the channel, you can hit that join button. Also, I just did a whole like channel member only ask me anything type thing. I'll do those occasionally. To answer those, you have to be a channel member. I just don't use Discord. That thing's kind of toxic. So it's the closest thing I can do. Anyways, back to the story. Anyway, so at first everyone thinks it's cool. Mr. Savage, right? He watches anime. He's one of them. He's one of the cool kids or whatever. I don't know, man. And they're just all like, ah, haha, that's so funny, right? But here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is a very special type of anime. A very, very special type. A type that, you know, yeah, because with a lot of anime, right, you know, maybe you can, like, watch it with a younger brother or sister. Or maybe you can watch your parents. Maybe you could even have your grandparents join in on the action. Let me just say that, you know, this special type of anime, you probably do not want to watch it with your parents. You probably do not want to watch it with your grandparents. You probably do not want to watch it with your younger siblings, right? It's probably something that if you are going to watch it, you're going to watch it by yourself in a place where no one knows that you're watching this. Do you catch my drift? Do I need to be clearer? I'm trying to be paid for this video. I can't make it. I don't want to be demonetized, please. I can't get any clearer, guys, please. Yeah, let's just call it a very special anime. And you might be thinking, like, Connor, like, how would you know, right? Like, how would someone know if it's this very special anime? Let me just say something, right? So while the anime, it was in, I probably like Japanese or something, right? You can't understand unless you know Japanese, right? If you don't know Japanese, you can't understand what they're saying. But let me just say that there are some sounds that are... There are some sounds that are just universal, man. You don't need to know the language to know exactly what is going on. Like, these people could be speaking in French, they could be speaking in Japanese, they could be speaking the native language of Kazakhstan for all I care. It doesn't matter. There's some noises that go beyond language. You don't even need to know any language to know what these are. You know, you catch my drift. You catch my drift. And yeah, so that's when everything started going south. The whole group me was like, am I hearing this wrong? Like, oh my God, like, no shot. And everyone's like, no, this can't be happening. This honestly can't be happening. Dude, this can't be happening to me, of all people. This can't happen. This can't be happening, man. It just can't. Everyone's like, what the fuck? What? Oh my, what? Why? What? The whole chat's like, oh my God. Do we say something? Like, because at this point, right, his mic's been unmuted for a while. And he's been watching anime, but the anime went south very fast. If you know, you know, right? And everyone's like, oh my, who's going to say it? Like, and I was like, dude, I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to be that guy. And everyone's like, someone has to be that guy. And the problem was, right, no one wanted to be that guy saying, hey, Mr. Savage, right, you're watching Actually, hold up. I don't want to be demonetized. No one wanted to be like, hey, Mr. Savage, you're watching some very, very special anime, a very special genre, right? No one wanted to say that, man. That's awkward. But here's the thing. It's even worse every second that goes by. It is even worse every single second that goes by, right? Because the longer they don't say anything, the longer that, you know, when Mr. Savage actually figures out that he forgot to mute his mic because he doesn't know it, he can't tell a computer and a rock apart from each other, right? He's going to realize that, you know, every second that no one said anything, they were just sitting there listening to what was going on. So every second that goes by, it gets worse. but no one wants to do it. Everyone in the chat's like, dude, I'm not doing it. I'm not saying anything, man. I'm not saying anything. I'm just not going to be that guy, man. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to say anything. Everyone in the chat is like, okay, someone has to do it, man. Someone has to brave up. Someone has to be like our true king, our true savior, and just really stand up for the common folk over here and just say to Mr. Savage, please mute your mic, dude. Oh my God. And as everyone is just kind of squawking in the group me, just like, I don't want to do it, man, but someone's got to do it. Someone's got to man up. Someone's got to do it right. The situation gets worse. It escalates. I don't know how to say it, but let me just say that, in this very, very special anime, right? The very, very, very special anime, the sounds that kind of alerted them to the fact that it was a very, very special brand of anime and not your standard family-friendly watch it with your grandparents anime. Those sounds, the ones that you don't even need to know Japanese to understand what's going on, those get louder, and everyone's like, no. Everyone's like, dude, it's getting worse, man. Someone has to do it. Someone has to say something. Someone has to man up. And at this point, it has been like 4 or 5 minutes since, the special anime started. Actually, right, this kid in his class, let's call him Jackson, right? Jackson was just kind of like this, he's very nice, but he's kind of like, big football kid. I don't know, was probably wearing his hat backwards, was probably like totally into trading stocks or something. I don't know, I'm just trying to build some random kid. I don't know why I made him a football backward hat wearing stock trader, but yeah, that's Jackson, right? Anyways, right, so Jackson, very nice kid, very good guy. But you know what? He was having enough of this. He unmuted his mic, and he said, hey, Mr. Savage, your mic is not muted. Please mute it. And all of a sudden, everyone goes quiet. The whole group me is like, no one starts typing because everyone's just like, oh my God, he just did a Jackson. You're both our savior, but also you've exposed us to the cringe that, and everyone goes silent for a second. Everyone is waiting. Jimmy, the subscriber, sitting there in the Zoom call in anticipation. The group me starts going off like, Jackson, we love you, bro, but oh my God, this is so awkward. And, you see Mr. Savage's mic. It mutes, right? And he sits there for a second. And then Mr. Savage leaves the Zoom call. The movie's still playing because he has another monitor or something, playing it on a different computer or device or something. But Mr. Savage, he just left the Zoom call entirely, and everyone's sitting. The whole chat is like, what do we do now, dude? What do we do? He left the call. Oh my God. And then someone said, hey, everyone check your email. Turns out Mr. Savage sent them an email saying, sorry guys, technical difficulties. He left it at technical difficulties. All right, nice try, bro. Nice try. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go watch another story video. In today's story, the substitute teacher, they forgot to clear their search history, and it got pretty bad. It actually got extremely awkward. Anyways, enjoy the story. Anyways, right, so the subscriber who sent this in, let's just call him PJ, right? I know a lot of really good PJs, so this guy's a good kid too. I can just tell from his profile pic. He's a good kid. Anyways, right, so PJ, we'll call him PJ. He sent me the story of when he was in history class, right? It was just a normal day in history class, or so he thought, right? He gets to history class, gets there a couple minutes early. He sits next to his friend. He's just having a pretty good time. I mean, not really. He's about to go to history class. I mean, how exciting can that be? Unless it's, I don't know, history of Bitcoin mining or something. I don't know, man. Anyways, right, so he's sitting in history class, and he's waiting for the teacher. And the teacher normally is there, before most of the students. I mean, that's normally the case with a lot of classes. Teacher just happens to be there either on time or a little bit before. I've definitely had classes where teachers were the last ones there, but unlucky for us, I guess, just tough, deal with it. But anyways, right, so, PJ, he's sitting there, and, he's with his friends, and he's just like, oh, I mean, where's the teacher? I've been sitting here for a while. I'm just a little confused. And, yeah, so, the teacher never shows, and it's 2 or 3 minutes later, and some random guy walks in, and this is a younger guy. Let's say he's probably 24, 25, probably fresh out of grad school or something for, I don't know, being a teacher. I don't really know how the education system works when it comes to being a teacher, man. That's not my forte. If you want to ask me about the education system when it comes to specializing in Bitcoin, okay, I'm gonna shut up now. Anyway, so the substitute teacher walks in and says, hey guys, I'm Mr. Let's call him Mr. Steven. Yeah, Mr. Steven. Anyways, right, Mr. Steven, he comes in and he's just like, hey guys, I'm gonna be your substitute teacher. Your teacher's sick today, so I'm coming in for the class. And I'm looking at the class notes, and it looks like we have a movie to watch. That's a good feeling, right? When you're in class and it's like, okay, it's movie time. Even if the movie kind of sucks, like the movie isn't that great, for some reason it is always so much better than actually doing like actual work. Even if for some reason the actual work might have been like legitimately more entertaining, for some reason it actually doesn't matter. As long as you're watching a movie, it's gonna be a good day. Anyways, he said, okay, your teacher sent me in the lesson plan. Today we're watching a movie, and I got a download link for it, so just give me a second. So, Mr. Steven, right? Mr. Steven, he goes on his computer, he downloads the movie. All the people are kind of talking with each other because, he's just downloading the movie, so it's kind of a free period for people to talk. People are like, all right, like movie time, baby, let's go. So I don't know about you, but whenever class was like, a movie class, it was always a good day. It was legitimately always a good day when that was the case. So everyone was pretty hyped, everyone was pretty excited, and eventually Mr. Steven, he actually gets the movie to download. He figures out how to use technology. But the thing is, right, Mr. Steven wasn't totally sure how to, use the AirPlay feature. He wasn't totally sure how to link up his computer with, the screen share type thing. So, he's like, okay, he's fiddling around with it for a little bit, and it's just not working. So he says, hey, does anyone know how to use, like screen share or use the AirPlay or whatever? I don't even know. Like somehow get his computer to like play on, the screen so that everyone could watch it. And this kid raised his hand. He said, hey, I can help you. And this kid, we'll call him Benny. Benny was kind of known as a Bitcoin miner. That was kind of his thing. Like everyone knew him as the guy who mined Bitcoin.
Connor, the joke wasn't funny the first time. It definitely wasn't funny the second time. It isn't funny the 500th time you said the joke. Can you shut the fuck?
Oh my God. Okay, I get it. I'm not funny. Whatever. I have an obsession with Bitcoin mining for some reason, even though I'm much more of a fan of proof of stake blockchains like Tezos or. Anyways, right. So this kid was kind of known as being a little bit. No, I don't want to call him a bully or no. Maybe he was a little bit, but he definitely had a very strong personality. This kid Benny, right? He definitely would. He didn't really. How do I put this? Like he was a good kid, right? He was a decent guy, but he definitely was very. You'll see. He definitely had like he didn't really care when it came to other people's feelings. I know that sounds harsh, but you'll know what I mean. Basically, what I'm trying to say is if Benny didn't really care if something was funny and it negatively impacted someone, he didn't care because it was funny. Like he didn't care that it negatively impacted someone. If something was funny, he'd do it for comedy. No matter how bad it was on the other person. So anyways, right, so Benny, he goes up to Mr. Stevens' computer. He kind of syncs it up with the AirPlay or the screenplay or whatever. I don't even know, man. And, he gets it to work. And, so, the screen, it pops on screen, and there's multiple tabs open. And this is where things start to go really downhill. This is where things start to fall off an absolute cliff. This is where everyone's day goes from, I'm watching a chill movie with my classmates to, oh my God. Is right. So while the thing's screen sharing, while it's on the screen, right? If you don't know, of course you guys know, but on Google Chrome or Safari or whatever, when you have tabs open, there's a little bit of what you typed into the search bar or what was on, the website title. That is kind of present. You can see the first 50 or 70 characters of whatever you searched. And let me just say that was not good for poor Mr. Steven. And this is where things start to go downhill pretty quick. This is where things for Mr. Stevens started to go really, really downhill. Because he had a lot of tabs open. And for some reason, he just thought that, he didn't need to close them. If he didn't click into the tabs, he didn't need to close them, right? And people were kind of they started to look at them because you're going to look at the tabs, right? You're going to look at what it says. You're going to glance at it. And people just started to see hottest Minecraft anime, and then it cut off. Sexiest Minecraft anime, and they're just what the what? Huh? And everyone's there's a little bit of a slight murmur because people are all reading this at the same time, and they're just wait a minute, what the fuck, what? We just preface this by saying, I literally don't care what you watch in your free time, right? If your thing is, a popcorn getting popped in a microwave, if that's really your thing, man, I don't care. I honestly do not care. But the thing is, if your substitute teacher is looking up, most delectable Minecraft animations. Bro, that's weird. Like, if that's something you look up on your own, I literally do not care. But if your substitute teacher comes into class, does not close his tabs, and that gets revealed to you, bro, I'm sorry. Like, I'm literally so sorry. I'm so sorry. Someone's gonna say something. No one's gonna let that slip. And you know who definitely does not let that slip? You know who definitely does not? Benny. Benny's not going to let that slip. And because here's the thing, Benny's setting up the computer, he's setting up the AirPlay, and everyone else can see it on screen, right? It's pretty obvious. And yeah, Benny, out of all the kids, who's going to do something about it? Out of all the kids, yeah, Benny's going to be the one to do something. And unfortunately, he was the one, like, he was still manning the AirPlay because he was still getting it set up. It was like, and when Benny saw the tabs, he was like, yo, Mr. Steven, what's this? And he clicks on one of them, and it's just like a Steve. It's just like an animated Minecraft Steve. And it was like a very zoomed up photo of his face. And actually, on second thought, on a closer review, on a peer-reviewed study of research and data, I've come to the conclusions that I'm not going to meticulously depict the hottest Minecraft anime. I'm not going to meticulously depict the hottest Minecraft animations of 2021. Leave that to your vile imaginations. Anyways, right? So the whole class, because at this point, right, you have to remember, Benny has clicked into one of these tabs. And at this point, Mr. Steven, bro, he was new on the job. He was just a sub. He was coming in. All he wanted to do was, you know, get some credit hours or whatever. Because I think, like, a lot of, like, teachers, like, I think there's something about, like, getting hours as, like, a substitute that, like, that goes towards something. Maybe you get paid a little bit. He just wanted to come in, get his hours, get a little bit of bread, right? Get paid a little bit. Just, like, sit back, watch one of these movies about, you know, I don't know, 1960 Europe Reconstruction era, whatever. You know, I don't know, the United States going off the gold dollar, the gold standard. I don't know, man. Like, it was one of those history videos. He just wanted to sit back, watch that with the kids. Like, it doesn't even matter. He didn't want his search history and his, like, videos and the stuff he was watching the night before to be plastered all over the screen and potentially, you know, disrupt his career at least a little bit. Today's secret word is Minecraft. So if you made it this far into the video, I would like you to go in the comment section down below and comment Minecraft. I can't heart all of them. I've tried my best to heart a lot of them, but I just can't get to all of them. But if you want a good chance of getting a heart and maybe getting top commenter on the channel, comment Minecraft. I'll heart a bunch of those. This is a way to say thank you for the wonderful, wonderful watch time. And also a thing I started a couple of videos ago is, like, if you guys send me, you know, any kind of, like, fan art or cool kind of art like that to my Instagram, I'll try and put some of it, like, in some of my videos. Instagram is on screen right now. That's where you can send me the stuff, as well as send me the stories, which you guys have been doing and sending me a lot, and I do appreciate them. But yeah, I'm just going to show you some fan art on screen right now, as well as the Instagrams to the correlated accounts, so you can go say, like, that it's cool. Go send them some good messages or something. And today is your lucky day, because every single person who leaves a like on today's video will receive their very own nothing. I know, it's a wonderful deal. Back to the story. Anyways, right, so Mr. Steven regains control of his laptop, like, shuts it, it disconnects the AirPlay or whatever, right? And he's like, guys, I'm so sorry, like, you weren't supposed to see that. And, like, the kids in class, right, this is a high school class, like, this isn't some, like, middle school class where this would be a really serious issue. Like, it's bad in any case, but, like, the kids just thought it was pretty funny. And, like, the subscriber PJ was like, he kind of spoke up. He's like, dude, like, Mr. Steven, don't worry about it. We actually, like, I think it, like, whatever, dude. Like, we don't care. We just found it was, like, funny that, like, I don't know. Like, it's like, we're sorry. Like, we're sorry that we're laughing at you, but, like, we really don't care. Don't worry about it. Mr. Steven's like, yeah, I'm just sorry again. He's like, also, guys, if you could just, like, not tell anyone about this. I know that sounds weird or whatever, but just, like, it honestly was a mistake, and it'll just get me in a lot of trouble. And, I mean, it seems like you guys don't really care, so it would just really help me out if, you know, you just didn't tell anyone. They were like, yeah, dude, like, don't worry about it. And, like, PJ's like, yeah, you're good, bro. Like, we get it. Like, could kind of mess up your career or whatever, and it's honestly not a big deal, so it's totally chill. let me just, and PJ offered himself. He's like, yeah, let me just get back up here. If you want to close those tabs for me, big guy, I'd appreciate that. But I'll get the movie set up and we'll just sit here and watch it and you're chill. And Mr. Steven was obviously a little bit shaken up. I think I'd be a little shaken up too. Thankfully, I would never be in that position for many reasons. But Mr. Steven seemed a little shaken up and he was like, yeah, thanks. I'm just going to sit down. He was defeated, bro. He was done. So you might be thinking to yourself, like, okay, well, this is a decent end to the story. Why is there still like 3 to 4 minutes of runtime on the video? Like, they obviously, everyone in the class was like, they thought they'd be chill about it, and they're just gonna go ahead and watch a movie and definitely not get this like decent teacher in trouble who just like forgot to close his tabs, right? No one's gonna mess this up. No one's gonna make this unnecessarily awkward and unfortunate for no one's gonna do that, right? There's just 3 minutes of like extra blank space. Unfortunate to say, the story does not end here. You guys remember Benny, the kid who was called up to, to actually, the first one who, clicked on the tab and showed the whole class, basically. And as I said earlier, Benny basically would do anything for a laugh, for a good funny, like a good haha moment. And in Benny's mind, he was thinking to himself, what would be a super funny reaction if I told the principal and the principal came in and like talked about it? Like, that would be hilarious. And Benny didn't really, because I said this earlier, right? He didn't really think of like ramifications or his actions having effects on other people. That whole thing, he wasn't really thinking about that. He just thought it would be super funny if he did this. So what Benny did is he was like, hey, Mr. Steven, can I go to the bathroom? And Mr. Steven's like, yeah, sure, it's fine. He was still a little shaken up, but he was kind of warming up to the class again. Things were good. The movie was playing, by the way. PJ got up there, successfully got the whole thing all set up. Things were looking pretty good, right? Things were just going smooth. The class was enjoying their movie. But what Benny did was he walked down the hallway and he walked right past the bathroom and he walked right to the principal's office. And what he did is he said, hey, Mr. whatever, Mr. Principal or whatever his name would be. Let's just call him Mr. Principal. I don't want to come up with another name. I'm gonna mix up the names if I have too many. So he's like, hey, Mr. Principal, right? Do I have a story for you? And let me just say that the principal did not find it as humorous as the class did. And the reaction was not as humorous as Benny expected it to be. Aha. So PJ's sitting in class. He's there with like a friend or two, and they're just chilling watching the movie when they hear a banging on the door. They hear bump, bump, bump. And then all of a sudden the door opens. And you know who walks in? Benny. And you know who walks in right after him? The principal. So Benny, he was a little, he didn't understand stuff like that. He really didn't like think ahead. But even, Benny was at least competent enough to realize that as he was standing there that, oh my God, he messed up at least a little bit. And the principal is like, Mr. Stevens, is what Benny told me that just happened, is that true? And the whole class is looking at Benny like, dude, why? Like, legitimate, why? We don't care. It was an act, like, why? And the substitute teacher, Mr. Steven, is just looking at the principal like, and here's the thing. The class would have totally gone along with, like, no, Benny made it up. Because, they were okay with Benny, but, Benny had pulled a few, like, something like this before. Not exactly like this, obviously. But he's been a jerk to these kids for comedy in the past. And, they definitely wouldn't side with him over this, like, okay guy that, like, seems like he just, like, made a mistake, right? But no, Mr. Steven is just like, yeah, it's true. And, principal looks at Mr. Steven like, yo, come with me. And then he looks at the class, he's like, hey, guys, like, you got class off, like, you can go just, like, chill till next period or whatever. Like, go, or just, like, stay here and study, or just, like, go somewhere. I don't really care. You can't leave, obviously, but you get class off. Do what you want. And yeah, the principal and Mr. Stevens, the substitute teacher, they leave the classroom, and the whole class is just chilling there like, and they all look at Benny, and they're just like, and then PJ's like, dude, why? And he's like, dude, I thought it'd be funny. And they're all just like, what part of that was funny? He was like, guys, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it would do that. And they're like, dude, you didn't realize he'd get in trouble? It was very clear he'd get in trouble. He's like, dude, I thought it'd be so funny when the principal came in. I thought the principal would have more of a sense of humor. And they're all just like, dude, why would the principal have a sense of humor? He has to run the place. So this was like an old guy, like the principal was like an old guy known for not having a sense of humor, known for like taking stuff very seriously. So everyone's like, Benny, why would you think this? And eventually Benny's like, I messed up. I messed up. And they were like, yeah, dude, Yeah, you did. Subscribe if you haven't already, and then go watch another video. There's a bunch on screen. Also, 5,000 likes, and yeah, it's good stuff.
Another day, another story about a spoiled kid, but this time he actually attacks his teacher while, like, spewing a bunch of nonsense at... anyways, this is probably one of the funniest ones we've had in a second. So yeah, sit back, relax, grab something to drink, grab something to eat, grab something to mine your Bitcoin on, grab something to do your math homework on, and yeah, let's just get right into the story. This one's something else, dude. So anyways, the subscriber who sent in the story, and you can send in stories too to my Instagram and get featured on the channel, link in description. Anyways, we're gonna call this guy Ben, and I know that's kind of a meme on the channel because I use Ben for like every other name, but I was looking through the comment section for suggestions for names to use, and someone says use Ben because haha, use Ben all the time. So I'm actually taking your suggestions for names, and I'll be using Ben. Anyways, right, so Ben, he's a subscriber, he sent in the story. Anyways, he's in class, and he's in 6th grade. And in the 6th grade class, he has someone in his class, and we're going to call this guy Brandon. And Brandon is the spoiled kid, right? So Brandon, like, okay, so the other spoiled kids that we've had, like, the parents have done, like, extremely well. Like, they come from a ton of money, right? Brandon, right, came from a pretty standard family. And look, there's... like that's like everyone else at his school. Like he was legitimately like everyone else in his school. But for some reason, right, he just always had it in his mind that he was significantly better and had significantly more money and was just like super powerful, and his family could smite you with like, I don't know, a court case or a lawsuit if you did anything. So this kid was not just like, you know, entitled and spoiled. He was also delusional. So that kind of just brings like quite the scramble of ingredients to make an interesting turn of events, especially when he actually just goes ballistic and attacks his teacher. But we'll get into that in a second, guys. Give me a second. Let me draw out the backstory a little bit. Let me give you some background. Let's flavor up the story. Anyways, right, so Brandon has been in Ben's class for a very long time, so everyone kind of knows about Brandon. And Brandon really didn't have that many friends, and, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, like, poor kid doesn't have that many friends. Nah, bro. He did this to himself. He played himself. Like, normally, you know, I'd agree, I'd feel bad or whatever. No. This kid definitely did it to himself. He had been, like, known for, you know, he was kind of known as someone who had, like, an attitude without really having a reason to have an attitude. And there's no real reason ever to have an attitude. But in the past, like, the spoiled kids have been, like, you know, they had been acting entitled because, like, they had always gotten something more and they knew, like, their parents made a lot of money or whatever. First of all, not a good reason to be a complete jackass, right? That's not an excuse. But Brandon, dude, there was literally no reason. Like, there was no base that this was on. He just imagined that his parents had, like, infinite money glitch when that just was not the case. They were just normal, which is totally normal. It's cool. Like, that's what everyone else was. He could have been easily boys with them, but no. Anyways, right, so one day in class, you know, Ben and Brandon, they're both in some history class together. This is a standard 6th grade history class. I don't know what they're learning about, but one day they're just kind of sitting there, and they're getting their test back, right? So they had a relatively big test, and, you know, Brandon, you know, obviously was bragging to everyone about how he was just, like, inherently smarter than all of them. I think this was, like, similar behavior to another girl way back in the day. I think I did a story about her, like, a long time ago. But anyways, Brandon also did the same thing, where he basically bragged to everyone about how he was going to crush it and how he's going to absolutely ace this test 100%. Like, just absolutely slam it without even having to try, dude. I'm not even kidding you. Like, he went into class and he's like, I am just smarter. I am just better than all of you guys inherently, which is a little weird. And he's like, I don't even have to study. And obviously, right, this test was like a history test. It wasn't like an interpretive one. It was a, what date did this thing happen? What is the name of the 4th king of England? Like, it was one of those, like you gotta memorize stuff tests. It's not even something, if you were genuinely like a really smart dude, you couldn't just figure it out. Like, you couldn't do the math. You couldn't figure it out, man. So obviously, right, you know, the teacher's handing back all the tests, and Ben, the subscriber, bro, he studied. He got like an 85. He did very solid on the test. The average was probably like 88, 89. So he felt very he was satisfied with his result. And the teacher put every test face up on everyone's desks until she got to Brandon, and she just like, she put it face down. You know for a fact, right? You just know for a fact. Some teachers, they put all the tests face down. But if teachers put tests face up and then they come to you and the test is face down, dude, you're absolutely boned. It's GG. It's just unlucky right now. GG unlucky. Like, you got, it's just not going to work, bro. you're screwed. You failed. I don't know how else to say it. And so Brandon, was still pretty confident because he's also a little bit delusional, if you couldn't already pick up on that. He flipped over his test, and Ben kind of like saw his test grade right away, and he was just looking at Brandon. And Brandon had a smug expression on his face, and then when he turned around the test grade, like his face dropped because he had like, I don't know, 62 or something. So right, Ben was watching Brandon as Brandon's face like kept like contorting it, like started like it got all scrunched up, and then it was like all like, and then he started to get angry, then shocked, confused. He went through like all 5 stages of grief within like 10 seconds in his facial expressions. But then, of course, he raises his hand. He's like, teacher, there must be a mistake. And the teacher's like, Brandon, like, I'm sorry. I know this one didn't go as well as you wanted, but like, there was no mistake. And he's like, no, that's impossible. And, Brandon and the teacher, they start having a back and forth. Brandon's like, no, I'm very, very certain you made a mistake here. And the teacher's like, Brandon, all right, what do you think the mistake is? He's like, I don't know, but it's very clear. Like, obviously, right, I'm just inherently really smart, and I wouldn't make mistakes like this. And the teacher's like, Brandon, come on, man. Like, I'm sorry. If you want to study with me, like if you want to like go over future assessments, so I don't know, like so that like I don't know, you do better, like that's totally fine, man. And Brandon's like, no, I don't think you understand. I'm just inherently smart, so I should have done well. At this point, the teacher's like, Brandon, come on now. Like, I'm sorry you didn't do well on this. Next time it'll go better, and I can also help you make it go better if you just want to study with me. At this point, right, Ben, the subscriber, is sitting there like, oh boy. Because like they were kind of recently new into this history class. Yes, it was a pretty major assessment, but it was just like a major assessment on the first kind of unit they did. So the teacher didn't really know Brandon. And all the other kids are kind of looking around like, oh boy, Brandon's about to have another one of his meltdowns, his epic meltdowns. Except this one went a little bit farther than anyone would have expected. Normally you don't expect a kid to, attack his teacher. But anyways. And then Brandon begins his breakdown, right? Brandon looks at the teacher. He's like, I'm going to count to 5. And if you don't revert the grade, you're going to regret it. And the teacher's like, dude, what are you like, what? The teacher's like, Brandon, I'm not going to change the grade. And Brandon's like, 4, because he said 5. He's like, 5, 4. Teacher's like, dude, teacher's like, I'm just not going to change it. 3. And he just looks at him and he has a stare down. 2. And Brandon's like, you're going to regret this. And the teacher's like, regret what? And then Brandon says, 1. And he starts he looks down and makes this really angry face, goes, and at this point, all the other kids are like, dude, what the fuck, huh? Like, are you okay? Like, excuse me? Are you good? Huh? Is everything okay? Are you like, what? All the other kids are just watching in just complete astonishment at this point. Because this kid is actually just like melting down right in front of them. He's like, "Grr." And what he does is he goes up, walks up to the teacher's desk. And at this point, the teacher was like stood up and was like passing around grades. So Brandon walks right by the teacher and goes right up to the teacher's desk. And at this point, right, Brandon goes up to the desk of the teacher and is like, you've made a mistake. You've underestimated me. And he takes both of his hands and he just like clean swipes the entire desk. So the teacher had like a bunch of papers, like a cup of coffee, like a bunch of stuff on the desk, all flies onto the floor. At this point, the teacher's just like, mouth is wide open because, right, and the entire class too, because here's the thing. They know that like Brandon has had like breakdowns and like goes on rants and rampages, but dude, this was a whole nother level. Like this kid must have seriously cracked at this point. And then Brandon starts to say, you poor, you filthy, you destitute vermin. And at this point, like the teacher's like, what? Huh? He's like, you scum, you slime, you are beneath me. And he goes around just like, he picks up some chair and he throws it across the room, barely, right? And he's like, secret word of the day is chair. Speaking of chairs, right? So comment chair down below. I'll try and heart as many of those as I can. And also, today's your lucky day, because if you leave a like on the video right now, you'll receive literally nothing. Anyways, right, Brandon, picking up a chair, throws it across the room, is like, and the teacher's just like, dude, what the fuck? At this point, right, the teacher's like kind of like assessing the situation, because he's still kind of like shocked by just what is going on. He's just like, oh my God, like, are you serious?
And then Brandon goes over to the whiteboard, right? There's a whiteboard, there's whiteboard markers, and there's erasers. And he picks up a big jar of whiteboard markers, and he's like, "You shall feel my wrath." And he starts just chucking them at the teacher. The teacher's like starts to like dodge. He's like, "Oh, stop it, Brandon." And Brandon like takes the whiteboard markers and throws them. And the whiteboard markers are like foam. They're like styrofoam, dude. So they like daintily float over and like bounce off the teacher. And the teacher's like, "That's it." The teacher goes up to Brandon, who's just kind of like shocked at this point because the teacher basically runs up on him, grabs him by the collar and says, "You're coming with me," and just like pulls him out of the class. At this point, Ben and all the other classmates are just sitting in class watching as the teacher drags him out, and Brandon's like, "You'll regret this, you'll pay, you filthy poor slime," and he's just like the most goofiest stuff anyone has ever heard. And once they leave, after like 10 seconds of pure silence, Ben just starts laughing, dude, because at this point, right, Ben has just watched this thing and just like, what just happened? And the whole class is like talking, laughing a little bit, just like completely shell-shocked at like, because they always knew Brandon was kind of like a weird kid and like would always be like, was kind of like weirdly entitled and delusional, but he'd never had like a crazy meltdown like this, right? This is at a whole new level. And so anyways, right, Brandon, apparently he gets like about a week of suspension in school. And the teacher comes back after dropping at the principal's office and explaining what happened. And the teacher's like, he looks at the clock. He's like, "There's 10 minutes left." He's like, "You know what? I did have a lesson planned for today, but I think the lesson that, we all learned today was this: don't be that guy." And then everyone starts laughing, bro. They're all like, "Okay." And the teacher's like, "All right, this is a weird day. Just get out of here. Like, have a good day. I don't know. Like, I need to think about this." And the teacher's just like, "Yeah, class is done. You guys are good." And everyone's just like, "Okay." And they're just all leaving class like, "Oh my God, like, what just happened?" Anyways, a week later, Brandon is not just, he isn't just suspended, he's also removed from the class. But like a couple weeks later, Ben like bumps into Brandon and is like, "Hey, what's up?" And Brandon looks at him and just like keeps walking, dude. And that's like the last time Ben ever saw Brandon. I don't know if he transferred schools or he just like wasn't like in class with him anymore. But yeah, interesting, right? Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go click on another video. There's some on screen, some on the sidebar. Click it or I'll cry. Today we have a story of a substitute teacher that does a pretty big oopsie, and maybe oopsie's an understatement, but does a bit of an uh-oh in front of a lot of people. And that's all I want to say. I don't want to spoil it too much. So yeah, let's get right into the story. Sit back, relax, grab something to drink, grab something to eat, and yeah, let's get into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who sent in today's story, we're going to call him Nate. By the way, I just got that from a comment someone left. As always, I do my best to try and just take names from comment suggestions you guys leave. So if you want to see your name or something used in the story. Anyways, right, Nate contacted me on Instagram, which is the best way to submit stories, in the description, or it says connorpugs. And, he told me about this time where, he was in class and he's just kind of chilling, and he had the same this teacher, I don't know, this was like a math class or something. Doesn't really matter. But anyways, right, he always kind of had the same teacher every single day. What am I talking about? The teacher came in around the same time every single day. That's what I tried to say. And the teacher was always like 5-10 minutes early. He was an older teacher. He was probably like 70, 75. He was getting up there in years. Or I guess maybe this was a professor. I think Nate was older. Maybe this was like college or maybe very late high school. I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, the professor normally like gets up really early, goes to bed really early. So he's always in class like at least 10 minutes early. So when Nate gets there, he goes in there and, 2 minutes before the bell rings for class to start, and the professor's nowhere to be found, which is pretty unusual. And he's kind of like looking around and he's like, "Oh, I guess maybe there's traffic today or the professor slept in," but that still seemed pretty unusual. So Nate opened up his phone, was checking his inbox, and he saw he got an email from the professor saying, hey guys, or "Hey class, I'm sick today. You'll have a replacement. Like, obviously don't mess around, pay good attention, and treat them well." Anyways, right, so Nate's like, "Oh, okay, that's pretty cool." And he's sitting around and people are waiting for a couple minutes. And then the substitute teacher walks through the door. He says, "Hey guys, my name is," I'm just going to call him the substitute teacher. Whenever I have too many names in a video, I just mix them up. And you guys are like, "Dude, you called the wrong person for like the 100th time." And, I'm just trying to keep this simple. I'm trying to keep you guys happy. So we're just going to call him the substitute teacher, just going to call him the sub. Anyway, so the sub comes in, introduces himself. "Hi guys, I'm the sub. My name is the sub." That's not actually his name, but you get the point. Anyways, right, everyone was kind of chilling. They're like, okay. And today was going to be an easier day in class. The substitute teacher was just kind of instructed to put on a movie, put on a presentation, and also tell everyone to like take notes because I don't know, like pay attention in class, man. But the substitute teacher wasn't really required to do anything that taxing, like actually teach the class. He's just supposed to set it up and then sit back, relax and watch the movie too. So anyways, right, Nate's pretty hyped because like, I don't know about you, but personally, whenever it's a movie day, like even if the movie kind of sucks, like in any class, even if the movie's bad, even if I don't care about it, it's always nice because you can kind of just zone out. You can kind of just veg out a little bit, just kind of sit back and chill. It's a little tough when they say, oh, you're going to have a quiz on the movie afterwards, because that means you actually have to pay attention. And 9 out of 10 times, the movie being played is not actually that interesting. Anyways, right, the substitute teacher goes up there, puts on the movie, and it's pretty boring or whatever. He's like, guys, take notes. There's no quiz or anything, but your professor would like you to take notes. So, as always, nobody take notes, or nobody took notes or, paid any attention. Let me just say that they were all about to pay attention. So about 15 minutes into the movie, this is like an hour, 15-minute long period. It's a longer period. The substitute teacher who was just kind of like chilling there, he's like, okay, guys, like, he just kind of said, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. If anyone needs me, like, I don't know, like if you need anything, like feel free to do it yourself, basically, like I'm going to be gone for a little bit. So that's where I'm going. So the substitute teacher, the sub, leaves the classroom and the kids are kind of just there. And basically what happens the second he leaves the classroom, everyone whips out their phone, is just like on it, not paying attention to the movie, somehow even less than they were before, which is pretty impressive. But things were going pretty normally up until about 2 minutes after the substitute teacher left. So this is where things start to go downhill really, 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 really quickly. You guys will see what I mean in just a second. But anyways, right, they're chilling, they're on their phones, and then they notice something. They notice that, that the whole, like, the movie or whatever, it was kind of, like, glitching out for a second, and they're kind of confused why it was glitching out. And they notice something. That, when this is kind of goofy, but when the substitute teacher left, right, when he left to go to the bathroom, for some reason he brought his backpack with him, which was a little strange, people were thinking. And they noticed that, like, the screen was kind of, like, flickering a little bit. It was just kind of weird. And they were like, okay, whatever. Like, if this thing goes out, no one really cares. They're just on their phones. So they noticed that, the whatever is screen sharing the device, like the mouse has become active again, which is really strange because how like when someone moves the mouse, it becomes active again and like kind of like brings up the pause button or whatever. And they noticed that like for some reason, right, the screen like it minimizes the video that's playing minimizes. And how, like, at least on a Mac, I don't know how you can do this on, like, a Windows computer. I'm pretty sure this was a Mac computer because I don't really know other computers that can do this. If you do, like, a 3-finger swipe, you can, like, get an entire new desktop window. So whatever is playing on the other side will continue to play as normal, but it's like you have an entirely new window open. So at this point, right, the class was starting to realize, like, oh, my God, like, the substitute teacher who's, like, airplaying the movie that we're all supposed to be watching either knows this or like either knowingly or unknowingly is on his computer that's still airplaying. And they're like, okay, maybe he just has to do some work emails. Like hopefully we don't see any confidential work emails. Let me just say that they would have wished that these were work emails that he was about to do. They would have wished that he was looking up work emails or how to like shortcuts in Excel documents. They would have wished. Honestly, man, they would have begged for that. But unfortunately, life is cruel. They just got super unlucky. And no, the substitute teacher was not looking up Excel shortcuts or replying to his boss. He was not doing that even in the slightest. And people in the class are starting to realize that like this guy's screen sharing, he's on his computer, and it's pretty apparent that he doesn't know that he's still screen sharing, or he like knows that it's like, or he thought that like moving to another window. Honestly, like the details I got through the DMs were kind of murky, but all I know is like the substitute teacher who was playing the movie left to go to the bathroom, brought his computer, and was still screen sharing. I don't know the exact details, but those are the facts I know. So everyone in the class is like, oh my God, like, do we tell him? And then they realize that, like, he went off to some random bathroom. They have no idea where he is, and if he is in a bathroom, they don't want to go knocking in on some guy that they met 20 minutes ago saying, hey man, like, I know you're, like, taking a dump right now, but, like, can we talk? Like, no one wants to do that, bro. But anyways, right, they're all just kind of in class, and at this point, Nate is just like, "Oh my god, dude! Like, oh my god, what is about to happen?" And everyone in the class is starting to talk. They're just like, "Okay, we can't do anything at this point." But at the moment, nothing that bad is happening. Like the guy's just on his computer. Like, how bad could it get? And oh my God, did those words, honestly, that was kind of karma for literally saying out loud. Nate said in the DM that like someone actually said verbatim, how bad could it get? And honestly, when you put those words out into the universe was listening, and the universe was listening extremely close this day. They had very fine-tuned ears today, and they picked up on those words exactly. And let me just say that, unfortunately, Nate's classmates, they paid the price for saying that. Anyway, so I know a lot of you guys like anime. I don't personally watch it. It's not because I have like a dislike against it. It's just I don't know where to start. And I got a couple cartoons I'm watching right now, specifically rewatching some Adventure Time and Regular Show. And I don't really have a lot of time to watch TV anyways, so I personally haven't gotten into it. But I know a lot of you guys do enjoy some anime. And let me just say that this substitute teacher also very much enjoyed some anime. But he wasn't just watching, a classic. He wasn't just pulling out some like Attack on Titan. He wasn't just pulling out some like online sword art or whatever that one's called, right? He wasn't doing, your typical whatever, like standard anime like stuff. He was going to a specific genre. And I don't know if you guys can guess the specific genre. I know I certainly can't tell you verbatim, or YouTube will thunderbolt this video. Speaking of anime, today's secret word is anime, so if you made it this far, comment anime down below. I'm going to do my best to try and heart at least some comments that say anime, but currently, I'm in college, first of all, and also, I'm working on a lot of really big, exciting projects for the channel that you guys will enjoy, so I've been really busy with that, so don't feel bad if I haven't been able to heart your comment. I haven't really been able to heart any comments in the last couple days, but it's for good reasons, and good, exciting things are coming. Just watch. By the way, leave a like in the video. You'll receive nothing in return. Fantastic deal. Anyways, right, back to the story. So basically, right, the substitute teacher, he was looking up a certain genre of anime that would basically get my YouTube channel thunderbolted if I said anything too specifically. And if you can only imagine, the whole class was like, no, dude, no, because, right, they're watching this in real time, man. They're watching this as it's being typed into the private Chrome browser, and they're just like, no, like, this cannot be happening, and everyone's just looking at each other like, oh my God, dude, no, do we say something, do we do something? Everyone's like, half the class is turning away, the other classes, half is on their phone, the third half, because that's definitely math right there, they're just panicking, they're freaking out, everyone's just like, no shot. And let me just say that the next 15 minutes were the most awkward and uncomfortable moments of that class's life. Some people say that through like pain and suffering, a group of individuals can bond, almost like certain rituals that people go through if they're to join a fraternity, right? Well, I 100% disagree, and let me just say that this is a case study. No one here bonded. No one here bonded over this shared experience of pure trauma, right? It was this bad. So I'm going to be a good guy and spare you the details, but eventually, right, the 15 minutes or so ended, and the class noticed that, he quit out of the private tab, and then he went back to, like, flipping, like, turning everything back. He did the three-finger swipe and went back to the movie, and it had been playing the whole time, and assuming, supposedly he thought that, like, it was playing on the screen, and the only screen that was airplayed or screen shared or whatever was that screen. It's a little murky on the details I got in the DMs about how that whole thing happened, but let me just say it happened. I don't know how exactly. But anyways, right, it was pretty clear that the professor was coming back to the class. Or not the professor, the substitute, right? So Nate kind of, like, got up, and he's like, guys, okay, this was a horrible experience we all had, but let's just all come together and promise each other that no one says a word. We can get away from it. Like, this is awkward enough already, but if we don't say anything when the guy comes back in and not even mention it, don't even, like, imply it, we can have a totally normal 30 minutes that are left in the class. We'll have a totally, like, let's just, like, say nothing and we'll all be okay. Whole class was in total agreement. They're like, yeah, let's actually never speak about this again, ever. And so, yeah, the substitute teacher came back in, and he was like, sorry for taking so long, like, haha, had, like, Chipotle, haha. Everyone was like, and let me just say that, yeah, it was an incredibly awkward 30 minutes. Even though no one said anything directly, everyone in that classroom kind of, like, knew
they all had a shared experience. And it's like everyone knew something, and they all knew that like the substitute teacher didn't know that they know, because he was coming in so confident, so normal, so whatever, right? Which is really ballsy in my opinion, to even like, if you're screen sharing, even if you're confident, right, that it's not going to appear, bro, like even when I'm on a Zoom class, if I need to like go on my phone, like I make sure it's out of camera, even when my camera's turned off. Like I just don't trust that stuff, dude. Anyways, right, so the class eventually ended, and the substitute teacher said, oh, thanks guys for being so good. Like, I'm pretty sure the professor will be back tomorrow, and if not, it'll probably be me again. And everyone kind of just quickly looked at each other. And yeah, so anyways, the next day rolls around, and the normal professor is back in class, and Nate just has a sigh of relief. And he really hasn't really talked about this with anyone before he DM'd me about it. Apparently it's happened 1 or 2 years ago, or a couple years ago or something. But yeah, moral of the story is don't be that guy. Subscribe if you haven't already, and go watch another video. There's some on screen, there's some on the sidebar. Watch it, or I don't know, I'll be very, very
Today
sad.
we got a story time of a psychopathic math teacher that basically tortures these kids, but the table completely flips when the kids catch this math teacher doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Anyways, yeah, sit back, relax, leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing, and let's get right into it. If you want to send in a story, Instagram, Discord, both in the description, and we're going to call the person who sent in this story, we're going to call him Mark. I got the name from the comments, by the way, so leave your names in the comments. But anyways, right, so Mark, he was in 7th grade, and this was a math class. Anyways, right, so, on the first day of class, he comes in, and on the first day of class, you can normally get a pretty good sense of, like, how difficult the class is going to be, if, like, the teacher is, like, a good teacher, if they're strict or whatever. And so on the first day, right, Mark got into class, and, like, the teacher was sitting there at the front of the desk, and, like, people were kind of filing in, and they were sitting down, and they were kind of, like, talking to each other. And then at, like, 2 o'clock on the dot, because that's when the class started, the teacher's like, all right, class, I just want to let you know that this will not be an easy A. If anything, most of you might not even make it past a B. I'm going to say the average of this class will be a C and potentially a D. And everyone was just like, bro, hold on, like, chill out. We've been here for 30 seconds and you're already telling us that we're basically going to fail and there's nothing we can do about it. Okay, she didn't say that exactly, but, like, the teacher was just like, nah, bro, like, I just want to let you know that basically none of you guys are getting A's and you're all going to have to work very hard to barely get a C. And everyone was just like, all right, bro, this is 7th grade, chill out. But anyways, right, the class did not get much better after that point. So a couple weeks in, they had their first test or whatever, and in class, the teacher was really just not good at explaining anything. And by not good at explaining, I don't mean the teacher wasn't, like, couldn't comprehend it, herself, because, like, the teacher understood what was going on, right? She went to school, she's taking this math, and this math isn't hard relative to, like, what she's done, because, like, bro, this is 7th grade, she went to college. But she was, like, almost, I mean, I can't say intentionally, because that means I know intent that I don't know, but it almost felt like she was intentionally wording things more difficult than they needed to be. You know how, like, sometimes people can kind of, like, spice up their language, but not in, like, a productive way. They honestly just try and, like, they try and make, like, they use bigger words, or if in math they say things almost to gatekeep you, or just make it harder to understand when it doesn't need to be harder at all. Like, yeah, being more precise with your language is good, but just adding fancy words to sound smart doesn't actually make you smart at all, bro. I'll be honest. But anyways, right, the first test comes around, and everyone's kind of feeling like, all right, bro, like, we don't really know what's going on. We tried studying in the book, but, like, let's just hope this teacher isn't, like, ridiculous with the test questions or whatever. So they come in, and they sit down, and, Mark is kind of, like, waiting there, a little bit worried, kind of just a little bit nervous, because if like, on the first test, you'll get a pretty good sense of, like, how hard the teacher is, / like, how difficult their questions are. And yeah, so the teacher starts walking around, handing out the tests. Mark looks at the test, kind of goes through all the questions. I don't know about you, but I definitely will sometimes just read through all the questions first before starting, just really quickly to get a sense. And Mark was looking at this stuff, and it wasn't anything he recognized from the homework, because, like, Mark was trying to do well in this class, and, like, it was just sucks, like, the teacher wasn't good and also was going to be strict. But Mark did all the homework questions, bro. He grinded, he went for it. But when he was on the test and he was looking through all the questions, dude,
none of them were like anything related to the homework. I'm sure it was like somewhat related because a lot of math is related, but it honestly looked like, the teacher just like grabbed like a math like assessment from like a different class at this point. Yeah, it had the same like they were doing the same kind of like operations, I guess, but it was asking stuff that they'd never been asked before. And sometimes like, teachers can be like, the tests are going to be challenging. They're going to ask you to like think beyond your normal comprehension. And I can understand that to an extent, but at a certain point, if the kids don't know how to do something, the kids don't know how to do something. A lot of times when teachers make tests, if they have like 45 minutes to give the test, they'll make the test length like, 30 minutes, or that's like the expected length, so then kids have more time to like, if they need to like work more, or they want to check over their answers. But this test was incredibly long. In fact, honestly, Mark said even if he knew how to do all the problems, he wasn't even sure if he'd be able to finish it, like if he knew the problems, and he wasn't even in a situation where he knew the problems. So by the time the class ended, the teacher's like, all right, guys, we're out of time. I'm going to come around and collect the work. Mark was starting to panic a little bit because he only had like stuff scribbled down for half the questions, which basically meant an instant fail at that point. And then he also wasn't confident at any of his answers. So Mark looks around the room before like the teacher collects most of the work, and he sees kind of like a similar picture from everyone. Everyone is kind of at a point where they just like, they have stuff written down, but like honestly, like there's only like half the questions are filled out. So Mark is like, oh bro, I'm gonna get a curve. Like we're good. We're chilling. It was kind of early, but things start to get interesting pretty fast. So comment curve if you made it this far. So CURVE. I'm gonna filter the comments by curve and heart as many as I can. I'm pretty busy, but I'll do my best. Anyways, right, so Mark was looking around and he was like, okay, like we're definitely getting a curve on this assignment, bro, which if you guys don't know, because I don't know if you've ever had one, basically when everyone does bad on a test, the teacher will kind of like adjust all the scores, like they'll move all the scores up, or sometimes they'll move them down, but normally they'll move all the scores up proportionally, or maybe not proportionally by like plus a certain amount, but it all fits on a certain curve so that like the average will be higher. Because like if everyone fails, right, the average is going to be like a fail, and the teacher's not trying to have a fail be the average. So like they'll be like, okay, we're going to make the average a B and now adjust everyone's grade accordingly. So Mike was like, or Mark, sorry, not Mike. Mark was like, all right, bro, like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, this will be fine. So the next day comes around and, Mark goes into, his class, and the teacher's like, all right, guys, the average was a 52. And Mark's like sitting there like, all right, so I failed, but so did everyone else, but that's okay, right? Like, I should get a curve. And the teacher says, I'm satisfied with these results. There will be no curve. And Mark's like jaw dropped to the floor, and everyone else was like, bro, you cannot be serious. So after that class ends, Mark like checks his phone and he notices that he's been added to a group chat. And he checks it and he opens up the group chat and he sees that all the other people in that group chat, some of the numbers like he didn't have saved, but some of the numbers he did have saved, and they were friends of his that also happened to be in that class. And he realized pretty quickly that this was a group chat of everyone who was in that class. And one person said, hey, I made this just because I feel like the treatment we're going through is pretty unfair. And everyone else is like, yeah, this kind of sucks. Like, I don't think this is okay. And someone was like, I don't know, should we like report this to someone? What should we do about this? And the person's like, yeah, I made this group chat just so we could kind of organize and figure out what we're going to do. And so, right, at this point, they had no idea what they were going to do, but they were considering, I don't know, reporting it to the dean, confronting the teacher or whatever. But also, they just weren't totally sure what to do. However, the following events would define what they would do in a very interesting way. A very interesting way. So anyways, right, Mark and one of his friends, we're just going to call this guy Ben, because, bro, if I don't have an idea for a name, I'm just going to say Ben, because it's a pretty good placeholder. Anyways, right, so Mark and Ben, they walk in, and, they're basically trying to, like, they talk to each other beforehand, and they're like, all right, we got to do well in this class. Do you want to just like show up to class 20 minutes early and just like review the homework so we can like get questions? And, Mark didn't totally want to do this because that was kind of infringing on his free time, but he also was like, I need to do well in this class. Like, sure, whatever, that makes sense. So anyways, right, on the first day that Mark and Ben were planning on doing that, they got to class. They felt the door handle and it was unlocked. So obviously they were like, oh, it's unlocked. Like, we can go in here. They open up the door and what do they see, bro? Okay, I gotta figure out how to say this without being thunderbolted.
what do they see? Well, they see their teacher. And they also see the principal. I don't know why I said that so ominously, but yeah, so basically the teacher and the principal were in that room, and let me just give you guys a hint. They were not going over, like, schoolwork. They were not going over staff work or something. I don't know how else to say this, but yeah, let me just say that they were having a very intimate relationship at that current moment. And yeah, Mark and his friend Ben, they walked in on that. And let me just say that this was not disclosed to HR, probably because the principal was already married, so it was pretty clearly not disclosed to HR. And if you don't know, that's a pretty big no-no, especially like the principal has a power imbalance, so like the principal can't be doing that anyways. But if you're going to have a relationship within some kind of corporate entity or a school or something, you got to report it to HR, or there can be like a lot of issues. Obviously, right, I mean, Mark and Ben just caught these two in a pretty big scandal, and pretty soon, like, the principal and the teacher realized that two students have just walked in on the class and know very well what was this going on. So the principal's like, oh shit, like, oh man, I can't have this get out, man. Like I've worked so hard for this position, like I can't let this happen. And the teacher's like, oh my god, this is really bad. And right, so Mark, he's not the type of kid to like blackmail anyone. That's just not his style. But here's the thing, Ben, he was sick and tired of this class. He just wanted a good grade. He wanted, like, there was a certain, like, high school that you had to apply to that, like, Ben really wanted to get into. And, like, this grade was really going to help him get in or not get in. So Ben was like, all right, guys, here's the deal. I'm not going to say anything. And they're like, okay. And he's like, on one condition. And this seems pretty fair. And he turns to the teacher. And he's like, teacher? And he says, like, the actual name of the teacher, but I don't feel like coming up with one. The average of your last test was a 52%. And the principal looked at her like, what the fuck? Like, bro, what? Do you hate these kids? And, you know, Ben is just like, that can't happen again. It's either the average has to naturally be an 85% or higher, or you have to curve it to an 85% or higher. And the teacher's like, that's it? That's your demands? And Ben's like, yeah, that's it. That's all I want. And the teacher's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. And Ben's like, yeah, and if that doesn't happen, if that does not happen, yeah, this little thing is getting out. Like, with all due respect, like, I'm just trying to do well in this class. I'm just trying to get out of here. You guys have something going on that obviously is a little immoral, but I don't care. Personally, I just don't care. What I do care about is having a fair chance at this class. Honestly, Mark was kind of surprised they didn't just say to the teacher, give me like a 90 on every test or else I'll tell. Mark didn't need like, or no, Ben, sorry. Mark was surprised that Ben like didn't say that. But yeah, instead Ben could have failed that class, bro. He just asked that the average was something reasonable. So Ben was kind of yeah, he was using blackmail to get what he wanted, which is like a little not great. But at the same time, bro, he kind of helped out all of his classmates. And yeah, the principal's like, yeah, I'm so sorry that didn't happen before. And the teacher's like, of course, like, if we can just keep this between us, that'd be much appreciated. I will definitely, revisit my grading policies. And Ben was like, all right, good. Then, Mark and I will leave. We'll come back in 15 minutes. We'll tell nobody. And you guys will be back in your normal positions and life will go on. So anyways, right, Ben and Mark leave the classroom. And Ben just turns to Mark like, dude, oh my God. And Mark's like, bro, you're kind of a legend, bro. And Mark's like, yeah, bro. And Ben's like, yeah, dude, I kind of know. Like, I kind of did that. I'm kind of that guy. And Ben's just like, oh, bro, what about the group chat? And Mark said, all right, I got this. So Mark goes into the group chat and he sends a text saying, hey, like, let's see how the next test goes. Maybe the first test is just to like weed people out, right? If the next test is normal, let's not say anything unless it happens again. And everyone was like, because people were kind of on the fence of saying anything anyways. So people were like, okay, that's fair. And sure enough, the next test comes around and the average is an 87. And after that point, the average never drops below an 85. I'm not even kidding you. Subscribe if you haven't already. And now go watch another video. There's some on screen, some that recommended. You'll make me happy by. Today we have a story time of a very, very strange math teacher. To put it in the lightest terms possible, bro. Leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing. Subscribe, and let's just jump right into it. So today's subscriber, we're going to call him James, and I got that from the comment section down below. So leave any names you want me to use in the comments right now. But anyways, right, James. This happened when James was in 4th grade, and he had a math teacher. And it was the first day of 4th grade. Everyone was kind of excited to meet your new teachers. I know I'm always trying to size up my teachers when during my first day of classes to figure out Are they going to be chill? Are they going to make my life miserable? Because they literally have that power when you're in school, bro. But anyways, right, it was the first day of math class. And sure enough, right, James was, he got into class, he sat down, and he was kind of waiting to see what his new teacher was going to be like. And let me just say that he was not prepared for what his teacher was going to be like, bro. Just wait and see. So James, sat down, got into a seat, and everyone was kind of like, there's a bit like a rumbling of like talking, excited, nervous energy because it's the first day of class or whatever. And as soon as like the bell hit 2 or the clock hit 2, because that's when the class started, right? The teacher, I'm just going to call him Mr. Teacher, bro. I'm not trying to be creative today. Mr. Teacher was like, all right, class, like welcome to our math class. We will be learning like, I don't know, advanced arithmetic in basic geometry in this year. I hope that you all will, get something from this as you'll be using it for the rest of your academic careers. So I really do hope that you pay attention. Like this class will be like somewhat difficult, but if you put in the work, I guarantee you will all pass. And like this was kind of the first time someone was so formal in a math class, because like the year before, James, like the teacher he had was like, how's it going, guys? Like, welcome. Math's gonna be a lot of fun. Like, I know it hasn't been fun for like all you guys, like always, but I'm gonna do my best to make sure you guys have a good time, right? Very different kind of like, this guy was like mad formal, bro. And James was like, all right, so this teacher's gonna be a little strict, because the teacher he had the year before, like, he wanted you to do the homework, but if you came in and didn't do it, he was kind of like, oh man, please do it next time. And like, if you didn't understand it, the teacher the year before was always very chill about it. But anyways, right, this teacher was like Mr. Serious, because 4th grade math is so important and very serious and sophisticated or something like that, right? And sure enough, like Mr. Teacher was like, the seats you're sitting in now, these are your assigned seats. Please do not come in like in the following days and sit into other seats. He's like, all right, we're going to start with our first lesson. At this point, James was like, hey, like, all right, like we're kind of strict already, bro. Because like normally in these classes, they'd be like, oh, let's go around, say your name, say something fun about you. Like, dude, I always hated the fun fact because like, I don't know what a fun fact about me is. Especially like now in college, I'm not telling people I have a YouTube channel. Nah, this is not happening, bro. So my fun fact is like I have a dog. It's so lame. But anyways, right, they just went straight into the lesson. And James was sitting there like, dang, like Mr. Teacher, this guy is all business, no fun. It's like, I'm in 4th grade, man. Anyways, right, James, he was kind of spacing out a little bit. Kind of just, looking out into this, like looking outside. It was a nice day because like they started when summer was still going on, because that's when, the school year starts. And some other class, like let his class out, like decided to have an outdoor class to get to know them. And James was kind of longingly looking outside. And that's when he heard his name. He's like, James, that's your name, right? And he looks up and it's Mr. Teacher. And Mr. Teacher was like, all right, James, like, since it looks like you weren't paying attention, how about you help us figure out this question on the board? And James in his head was like, if it looks like I wasn't paying attention, how do you expect me to solve this problem, bro? But anyways, he was like, okay. And he looks up on the board and it's like some complex long division. You know when it's like the long division, you have to do the little sign that isn't a square root but looks like one? I haven't done that since 4th grade, man. And that was like the worst. That was the worst. I can't even do it now. Like, I bet I could if I tried, but like, bro, that sucked back in the day. I would rather do like my calculus and probability class right now than that. Like, it honestly was so annoying. And anyways, right, Mr. Teacher's like, how about you walk us through this problem as I just did like 2 minutes ago? And James is like, really, bro? Like, on the first day, you're going to call me out for spacing out for just a second? Are you serious, dude? I always hated teachers that, like, when they knew that you weren't paying attention, that they would just, like, embarrass you. And I guess it's a tactic to get you to pay attention. But, man, if I don't pay attention, I'm going to be punished by my bad grades, bro. Like, I'm going to get a punishment either way. You don't have to rub it in. But anyways, right, so James is not able to do it. He's embarrassed in front of the whole class. So James already does not like this guy. But all of a sudden, right, this is where things start to get weird. This is where things start to get, as the title implies, a little suspect, if you know what I mean, bro. Mr. Serious, Mr. Teacher, right, like the professional math guy, his phone starts ringing. And he's like, class, I need to take this. Please give me a second. Like, I apologize for my absence. And Mr. Teacher, he walks outside and closes the door. However, Mr. Teacher wasn't aware of how transparent the the door and like the wall. He didn't realize how thin the walls were. AKA, people could hear exactly what he was saying on the phone, which is where things just go completely downhill, dude. Which is where things just drastically fall off a cliff at like exponential speed. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video and you want some free hearts, on your comments, go ahead and comment teacher down below. I'm going to try and heart as many of those comments as I possibly can, just to see how many people actually made it this far into the video. And while you're down there, turn on the notifications next to the subscribe. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Anyways, right. So, James and the rest of the classmates, they're sitting in class. James has just, like, gotten embarrassed by this teacher. So he's just like, wow, I don't like this guy already, right? And sure enough, they're all sitting there, and they're all sitting there in silence because they're all kind of afraid of the guy. Like, maybe afraid is the wrong word. But they definitely just don't want to get on this guy's bad side, and it kind of seems like he's really uptight and really strict. And so the room is really silent. And also, the walls are really thin. And that kind of combination of a very quiet atmosphere and very thin walls has led to, basically this guy's phone call being very clear. Like, you can hear it very clearly on the other side. Like, everyone in the room, it was as if they were standing right next to Mr. Teacher when he was taking this call. This is where things get juicy. They hear Mr. Teacher, start to talk to this woman on the phone. And he says, hey, Amanda, like, how's it going? Oh, you're around tonight? Yeah, no, my wife won't be here. At this point, like, look, these are fourth graders. But some of them are like, they know a thing or two about how the world works. So some of them are starting to go, hey, yo, wait a minute. Pause, bro, pause. Like, hold up. My wife's not home, so this girl can have a whoa. And at this point, right, everyone's like head is turned to the door. They're all looking around. They're listening in. And sure enough, Mr. Teacher is like, yeah, no, my wife's out for the weekend. So, if you wanted to come over tonight, it was a Friday night. The first day of school was on a Friday. I think they did that to give them kind of like a break after the first day. That's at least how my school used to do it back in the day. I don't know if it's very popular, but kind of to give them a break after the first day. But Mr. Teacher's like, yeah, my wife's gone for the weekend, Amanda. Like, if you want to stop by, like I'm just saying, I cook a really nice steak, high season that, if you know what I mean. At this point, the whole class, their jaws have just dropped. This is their introduction to this teacher. They come in. He's really just like a massive tight ass, like he's grilling people, all this kind of stuff. He goes outside and is basically admitting to the class he's cheating on his wife right now, bro. Like, yeah, he doesn't know that the walls are super thin, but dude. So anyways, right, they hear Mr. Teacher kind of like say, all right, I'll see you then. Turn off the phone and then walk back into class. And he has no idea, right? He has no idea that the walls are so thin. He has no idea that, like, everyone heard everything that was just said, right? But sure enough, everyone in the beginning, some of the kids didn't really know what was going on, and there might have still been a few that were confused, but it was just so blatant at that point that, like, when he walked back in, everyone was just staring at him intensely, like, just completely, like, in shock of what they heard. And Mr. Teacher even kind of picks up on it a little bit, and he's like, you guys see a ghost or something? Haha. He doesn't even think for a second that they heard his call, because he was certain that, like, he went behind the door, that no one was listening or anything like that. So then he goes on to teach, and it's as if nothing happened, right? But sure enough, a bunch of fourth grade kids hear a crazy story in class. What do you guys think that they did as soon as as soon as their parents picked them up after school? The mom's gonna be like, oh, honey, how was your first day of class? Your teacher said what? So, that it spread basically, right? Spread like wildfire. As soon as that class day was over, right? Every mom in the neighborhood was made aware. And as soon as that happened, it was everywhere. And within a day, the teachers, I don't know about the teachers union, but all the staff and all the faculty knew about what just happened. So the next day they go in, or not the next day because it's weekend. So a lot of stuff brews over the weekend, right? And when, James goes in the class on Monday, there's a different teacher in his math class. And, she's actually pretty cool. She's a lot chiller than Mr. Teacher. She, the way she's teaching the material is a lot friendlier. She doesn't take it as seriously, but she does, want the kids to learn as the material is important for their future. She was just overall a teacher they all kind of enjoyed a bit more. Anyways, right, so when James, goes back into his car, but when the day's over, he asks his mom, he's like, hey, Mom, do you know what happened? Because, he told his mom all about what happened, with Mr. Teacher. And the next day, he's like, oh, Mom, why is Mr. Teacher, not in class? We have a new teacher. And the mom kind of, thinks for a second before she responds. And she's like, oh, James, honey, Mr. Teacher is on sabbatical. And that's basically sabbatical is when, a teacher is, allowed to take, a year off or a trip or something like that. It's, paid by the school, and they're allowed to do it. I think it's paid by the school. I don't know. But they're allowed to take time off, essentially. And she's like, oh, yeah, he's just taking a little retreat. I heard him and his wife are, they're solving their differences. Bro, keyword for man is getting she is pissed right now. Everyone knows their business, and he's in the doghouse for at least a year is what the decoding of that is. So yeah, sure enough, right? James has this cool math teacher for the rest of the year, and Mr. Teacher actually never returns to the school because this happened many years ago, and James has no idea what happened to Mr. Teacher. Anyways, subscribe if you haven't already, drop a like in the video, and then click on one of the 4 videos on screen right now, or just simply watch another one of my videos to support the channel. Thank you. Bye. Today we got a story time of a teacher that did something seriously unbelievable. I had to pause a few times while reading to just collect myself. But anyways, leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing, and let's just jump right into it. So we're going to call the subscriber Brian, and Brian is in 11th grade. So anyways, right, one day, Brian was just chilling with one of his friends, and his friends was like, bro, get on Tinder, bro. If you don't know, Tinder's a dating profile. Dude, I've been on Tinder. It has not gone well. I'm not going to tell you how bad it's gone, but, bro, I'm just not winning out here. God damn. But anyways, right, so, Brian's like, all right, bro, sure, I'll download Tinder. It can be kind of fun, whatever. So Brian downloads Tinder. He sets up his profile. And he starts swiping. And then he sees this girl. And he's like, all right, she's looking pretty good, man. Hey, what can I say? She's looking pretty good, dude. But anyways, right, so he swipes right on her. And within 5 minutes, he gets a notification that, he got a match. And who did he match with? Yeah, he matched with this girl. And his friend was like, hey, let's go. So anyways, right, Brian decides to hit up this girl, as one does. And the girl starts talking with him. And Brian and this girl, for the next 2 weeks, are just talking every single day. They're talking, all the time. By the way, you might be thinking, Connor, did you title this story correctly? This says, a teacher did something disgusting or something criminal. Just wait. Just wait. This story is so foul, bro. I swear to God. But anyways, right, so he's talking to this girl, and, this girl and him are talking every single day, and they're not just hey, how's it going, bro, or anything. It's not just basic, oh, I heard the weather in, I don't know, France today is pretty nice. It's legitimate conversations, dude. So anyways, right, they're having conversation, they're talking with each other, and honestly, Liam, or Brian, I must call him Liam, that was the name for another story, but Brian is I actually feel like I'm connecting with this girl, I'm gonna ask her out, and the friend is like, damn, dude, I didn't expect this to come from this, congratulations, man. So anyways, Brian is like, hey, we've been talking for a while, I think it'd be cool if we went on a date. And, the girl was like, yes, I'd love to do that. I really would. Where do you want to go? And they decided to meet at their local burger joint shop, whatever. Just think of some kind of I don't know, some kind of shake burger place with a lot of seats or whatever. So nothing too fancy. They just wanted to meet and talk and just chill or whatever. So anyways, right, the day that they decided to do that eventually comes, and Brian, he drives over, and beforehand his friend's like, hey, man, congrats, bro. I thought we were just gonna go on Tinder for the laughs, but you went on Tinder and you actually found someone. Respect for that. Congratulations, whatever. And the friend's like, yeah, I'm pretty hyped about it. So the friend gets in his car, drives over 15 minutes early because he wanted to be in there first. He wanted to make sure he got a seat because it was a burger place. So no reservations. He wanted to make sure it wasn't too busy or whatever. He goes there, there's plenty of seats or whatever. He says, hey, can I have a table for 2? Waiter says, yeah, of course. He sits down, and he's 10 minutes to kill, and he's just kind of waiting there, and he's pretty nervous, man. He's definitely feeling those butterflies. Anyways, right, so Brian is waiting there, and he actually gets a text because they're no longer texting on Tinder. They brought it to iMessage, and he gets a text saying, "Hey, I'm 5 minutes away." So at this point, right, Brian is really starting to be like, "Oh my God, I'm actually gonna like see her in person." Like he has seen photos of her, but like the photos of her weren't super good. Like they were kind of low quality, but she looked like, she was good looking. Like it was very clear at that point. But, Brian wanted to FaceTime one of these times before, but for some reason she was like, I'm too tired. I don't know. Like she was like weirdly ducking it. But the thing is, right, Brian didn't really see any other red flags. So he didn't really think much of it. Oh man, bro, he's gonna regret not thinking much of that. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not gonna try and spoil anything, but we're just gonna go into it, man. We're just gonna go into it. So anyways, right, Brian is sitting there, right? Brian is just sitting there waiting for his Tinder date to show up. And he sees, a teacher come in from his school. Like this isn't a teacher that he personally has, but he was like, "Oh, that's Miss Davenport." That's like the name I always use for teachers. So it's almost like the Ben of the channel, but it's less of a meme. Yeah, so he's like, "Oh, there's Miss Davenport. Like she teaches, I don't know, geometry for, the other 11th graders. I'm in algebra 2, so like I don't have her." He's like, "Oh, what is she doing at a burger joint? Like I guess she's just coming to like get something." And he's looking at Miss Davenport, and she seems to be looking around. So he's like, "Oh, Miss Davenport probably like, I don't know, has a date or something. Like, I guess me too. Haha." Boy, did that line not age well. God damn, did that line not age well? My God. Oh no. And yeah, so Brian is sitting there waiting for his date, and he realizes that it is time. It is the time she's coming. And he sees Miss Davenport walking over, and Brian's like, "Bro, my date is coming. Like, I don't know if I want to talk to you. Like, sure, you're at my school." And it's like, she's probably like, Brian is thinking, "Oh, Miss Davenport's coming over to say, oh, you go to my school. So funny seeing each other here." And Brian is like, "Any other time, I'd be happy to do this, but I'm looking out for my date, and I'm kind of stressed." But Miss Davenport keeps walking over. So Brian's like, "All right, fine. I'm going to have a quick conversation, and then I'm going to look for my date, because she is probably either getting out of her car right now. She might even be in the dining facility right now." That line also did not age well. So anyways, right, Brian is like watching as Miss Davenport comes over to his table. But the thing is, right, instead of like standing at the table, next to the table, above him, whatever, right, maybe even a little farther away, Miss Davenport sits down, and he's kind of like, "Hey, yo, like, I'm expecting someone. Like, you can't just be sitting down at this table." And Miss Davenport just looks at him. And Brian is like, "Okay, hello? Are you gonna speak, bro? Are you gonna speak? Like, okay?" And Miss Davenport says, "Brian." In this kind of voice that, like, Brian was starting to get, like, a little weirded out. He's like, "Dude, what?" And Miss Davenport's like, "Brian, I don't know how you're gonna take this, but I am Sarah. By the way, we're just gonna call the Tinder date Sarah." And at this point, Brian is in pure shock. He's in pure shock at this point because, Miss Davenport would not know who this Sarah person is unless she was like catfishing as Sarah on Tinder. And Brian started to realize that the person he had been talking to for the last 2 weeks was not Sarah, some like high school girl. It was Miss Davenport, the geometry teacher at his school, dude. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, the secret word of the day is teacher, so comment teacher down below. I'll heart as many as I can. If I don't heart yours, don't take it personally, as always. Also, while you're down there, make sure notifications are turned on. Anyways, let's go back to the story. So at this point, Brian is just sitting there in disbelief. He's not said a word yet. And Miss Davenport goes on to say, "I know I'm not what I looked like in my photos. I was too worried to put my actual face on there." And in Brian's mind, he's like, no S, Sherlock. Like, yeah, bro, I understand why, like, you don't want to put your actual face on there. You're the teacher, dude. But anyway, she goes on to say, "And honestly, like, I guess I was just bored and was really wrong. But, after we matched and we started talking, I just felt this kind of spark. I haven't felt this, like, with anyone before." And Brian is like, "What the fuck? What? Dude." Right, so understandably, Brian, like, the first thing he says, he's like, "This is so weird." And Miss Davenport's like, I know, I'm so sorry. It's just like, I've never talked to someone like that and had that kind of like feeling before. Like, I just had to come. And Brian's like, I just can't do this, right? So Brian gets up and he just leaves, which like honestly was probably like the best response. Like if I was in that position, I probably would have done the same, because dude, that is just way too weird. Yeah, Miss Davenport isn't like, 60 or something, but dude, she's like 30 something, and it doesn't even matter if she's 21. She's a teacher at that school. If you're a teacher, you can't be doing that with any of the students, bro. Any of them, dude. Like, that's crazy. So anyways, right, Brian gets in his car and immediately calls up his friend. And he's like, dude, you will not believe what just happened. And Brian basically goes on to explain what I just explained in the story that you just heard. By the end of it, his friend was like, oh my God, dude, that's so messed up. And his friend is like, you got to report that to the school. And, Brian was sitting there for a second. He's like, yeah, man, you're actually right. Like, I like personally am okay. Like, this is messed up, but I'm going to be okay, right? But, like, what's stopping her from doing something like this with another student, right? Like, that would be, like, I just can't sit by and let that happen. So, yeah, sure enough, right, it was like a Sunday. That's why they, were able to go out in the middle of the day. By Monday morning, Brian got to school bright and early, went to the principal's office, told them everything, showed them the proof. And yeah, by the end of the day, Ms. Davenport received a message basically saying to come to the staff or whatever. And the staff promptly fired her and reported the whole thing to like the police department. Brian has no idea what the police department did with it, but Brian does know that Ms. Davenport took the L and got fired. Subscribe if you haven't already, then click on one of the 4 videos on screen right now, or click on one of my other videos in the recommended. Today we got a story of a teacher that did something in class that they really should not have done, man. They really should not have done. Leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing, and let's call today's subscriber, let's call him Drew. So anyways, right, this all happened one day when Drew went to his history class. So yeah, this is a normal day, or at least Drew thought this was going to be a normal day in his history class, and he was waiting there, and Drew got there like 2 minutes before the bell rang, and normally his teacher, Mr. Davenport, this is a random name by the way, normally Mr. Davenport got there as the bell rang. He wasn't really known for being the teacher that's always there like 20 minutes early, like watching all the students come in, checking attendance really closely. Mr. Davenport is kind of known as a kind of a more of a laid-back teacher. But in today, Drew was sitting there and he was waiting for the class to start as, the bell rang, and he was watching the clock, and he watched it, tick by 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, all the way to 5 minutes until Mr. Davenport eventually kind of stumbled on in. And Drew was pretty, surprised because Mr. Davenport, while always being on time and never early, was never late. And 5 minutes, like a minute late, sure, whatever, but 5 minutes late to like a 45-minute class, if you're the teacher, is kind of a big deal. So the strangeness only continued for Drew as, he remembered the day before Mr. Davenport was saying how they had a whole lesson plan since they're doing history, that they were going to cover Chapter 7 in their history textbooks and have a discussion afterwards. However, when Mr. Davenport kind of came into the classroom, he kind of was looking around. He's like, hey guys, we're going to be watching a movie today. And right away, Drew was like, all right, this guy sounds a little weird. Like, I don't know why. Mr. Davenport, his voice is sounding a little strange. And also, why does he want us to watch a movie today? I mean, hey man, I'm not complaining. A movie's a movie. And if I can watch a movie in class, I'm not complaining. I'm not going to say anything. But he did say pretty specifically yesterday that, we were going to read through Chapter 7 and then have a class discussion about it. But all right, I'm fine with this change. Anyways, right, so Drew kind of sits back, relaxes, and watches as the movie goes on. Everyone in the class is pretty excited that they get to watch a movie, as Mr. Davenport really has never had them watch a movie before. However, Drew was he was still a little weirded out because the movie really didn't feel like it had to do anything with the history class, and especially the history they were learning. It kind of just seemed like a random movie he picked off the shelf, but hey man, he wasn't complaining, and he wasn't about to complain about this. But all of a sudden, right, they're watching the movie, and Mr. Davenport gets up randomly and just out of the blue just stops the movie. And then he looks at the class, he's like, class, it's time for our discussion. And then Mr. Davenport kind of goes on this long, rambling rant that doesn't really end up going anywhere, and he's talking about, the moon, and he's talking about the stars, and how, if you really focus, if you really, are in tune with your body, that like they will speak to you. And the entire class is like very entertained by this conversation, but is also like, what is going on? Because they always knew that like Mr. Davenport was kind of a chill guy. He let a lot of things slip, but he had never done anything like this. First of all, they watched a movie like, randomly, and the movie had nothing to do with their history class. And then Mr. Davenport, after being 5 minutes late and starting a random movie, decided to stop the random movie to have a conversation about how if you're really in tune with your body, you'll be able to talk to the moon and the stars. Like, they were having a blast, but they also realized that something was definitely up. So anyways, right, the class eventually ends, and Mr. Davenport is like, and remember, be kind to everyone, peace, love, and happiness. And everyone is like, all right, thanks, Mr. Davenport. This was a really fun class. Maybe we can do this more often. And he kind of looks at them, and he's like, I don't think we should do this more often, but this was a great class, guys. So anyways, Drew was kind of weirded out. He had no idea like what was going on, but he was like, this was actually a really funny day. How about when I get in the car, let me tell my mom. So, eventually, his mom picks him up from school. She's like, how was school? And instead of the normal, because I know when my mom used to ask me, I'd be like, good. It wasn't even me not trying to have a conversation. I just was not good at, saying, oh, my classes were good. I mean, it was good, right? I don't know. I had a good day. I did the things I normally did. I wasn't trying to be rude, but I never really knew what to say, like to respond to that besides good. But in this case, right, Drew didn't respond good. Drew told his mom all about the class in Mr. Davenport and what crazy events were going on. And Drew kind of expected, his mom to like be laughing along and being like, oh my God, your teacher is so awesome and hilarious and funny. Like, we should all hang out and, I don't know, get ice cream sometime or something. But instead, Drew was watching as, like, in the rear view mirror, he was watching, like, his mom's, like, expression get more and more worried and more concerned as Drew went on and said more and more of, like, what happened. And anyways, right, by the end of, like, Drew telling his mom the story, Drew was pretty good, like, aware that his mom was not as amused as he thought that she would be. And his mom is like, all right, Drew, like, anything else you want to tell me about what happened? Like, did Mr. Davenport say or do anything else weird? And Drew was like, no, it was just a fun class, Mom. Like, you don't need to worry about it. And she's like, oh, don't worry about me, Drew. I'm not worried about anything. And she kind of said that and kind of, like, trailing off in a mysterious way, kind of meaning, like, yeah, I'm definitely going to say something or do something, but you don't need to worry about that, Drew. You don't need to worry any about that. But anyways, the next day, Drew goes into class. He goes to school, gets to his history class, and they have a substitute teacher that day. Drew doesn't really think anything of it, and the day is pretty normal. And when, he comes to class the next day, he was kind of expecting to see Mr. Davenport. But once again, right, there is a different substitute teacher. So he's like, oh, Mr. Davenport was probably sick or something. And it's after about 3 days more of substitute teachers. Eventually, Drew goes into his class expecting to finally see Mr. Davenport back teaching his class. But instead, there's a new teacher. And the new teacher introduces herself as, I don't know, Miss Sarah? I don't know, dude. I don't know any good last names. And she's like, I will be your new history teacher for the rest of the year. At this point, Drew was like, what? By the way, if you comment history down below right now, I will try and heart as many comments that comment history. I'm just trying to say thank you and by giving some hearts. Anyways, right, so Drew is really confused at this point. So he sits through the rest of this class, and eventually he gets in the car with his mom, and he's like, hey, Mom, like, do you know what, I went to my history class today and, I've been having a lot of substitutes, but then this new teacher came in and she said that, she was going to be like my new teacher, that Mr. Davenport isn't teaching anymore. He's like, do you think, and Drew looks at his mom, he's like, do you think it was a coincidence that the last day of teaching, that Mr. Davenport ever taught us, right, that he was acting really weird? And his mom looks at Drew and, Drew's on the younger side, and, I think some of you guys don't know what's going on or have no idea what's going on, but I think a decent number of you guys have a sense of, why Mr. Davenport was acting the way he was, right? And Drew was in the point where he didn't really understand it at the time. This story happened a couple years ago. So Drew's mom kind of looked back, and she's like, you know what? I think is Mr. Davenport he's just pursuing different options. I don't think teaching was right for him, and he's trying something new. So was this exactly the answer that Drew felt satisfying or felt like, I don't know, this is the answer that answers all my questions. No, Drew definitely felt like there's a lot more that like he didn't understand. And obviously later on, like later in his life, a couple years later, he started to get a bit more context and finally figured out why Mr. Davenport was acting all weird and why he didn't return to the classroom environment and why he was acting so fun that day. Yeah, and let's just say that Mr. Davenport did not end up teaching at that school ever again, basically. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it. Today we got a story time of a substitute teacher that gets caught in class, and my god, is it awkward. Leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing, and let's call the subscriber in today's story. Let's call him Gavin. So anyways, right, Gavin was just chilling in his class. He got there like 2 minutes early, as he always does, and while he was waiting there, he realized that, the teacher just wasn't showing up today. And sure enough, right, within about a minute after the class, starts, Gavin's kind of sitting there, and people are kind of looking around, waiting for the teacher, and then this guy comes in. This guy comes in this suit. He looks really I don't know, he's kind of dressed up, especially more dressed up than any of the other teachers at Gavin's school ever were. And, he comes in, he says, "Hello, class. My name is, let's just say, Mr. Davenport." I literally use that name for every teacher. He's like, "My name is Mr. Davenport, and I will be your substitute teacher today. Do not try and mess with me simply because I am a substitute. You must understand that I have the same authority as your teacher." He was acting super high and mighty for some reason, bro. He was just trying, maybe he had a really bad experience before where the kids just picked on him the whole time. Or maybe he watched some kind of, I don't know, some crappy kids movie where the kids always, pick on the substitute teacher and it's always, a joke or something. I don't know about you, but I never picked on my substitute teacher. It was always pretty chill when they were here. But anyways, right, he was really trying to lay down the law. So anyways, right, he goes on to say, and we have a lesson plan, and on the lesson plan, we will be doing this assignment. So everyone take out their books. And this one kid's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't bring my book today." And the guy's like, or the substitute teacher's like, "You didn't bring your book? This is class. Do you have no respect?" What I'm trying to say is, this guy was going above and beyond, bro. He was going crazy. And the subscriber, Gavin, was kind of just sitting there dude, this guy is not chill at all. And eventually, right, the substitute teacher, after they go over a certain thing in the textbook, he's like, "All right, I've been told that I have a video to show to you guys." So what does the substitute teacher do? He goes out, he whips out his laptop, he connects it via AirPlay to the screen. And let me just say that, bro, AirPlay scares me, and it should scare you after this story. Because he connects his laptop to the screen, so now everyone can see what's on his laptop. And let me just say that, the substitute teacher, bro, he was not looking when he clicked on the tab, and he must have not cleared his tabs from the night before, because he clicked on the wrong tab, bro. Oh boy, I don't know how to explain this without being thunderbolted by YouTube, dude. So you guys know what anime is. Of course you do. You watch a little, I don't know, your good old Attack on Titan, your Death Note. You watch your good old anime, right? So there's a certain... Boy, how do I explain this, bro? There's a certain type of anime that is kind of tailored for adults and adult anime. That's as far as I'm saying. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, just assume it's something bad and embarrassing. Or it's not bad necessarily. You just wouldn't want to show it to... You wouldn't want people... I don't know. You wouldn't want to play yourself looking at it. That's what I'm trying to say. But anyways, so that is... So the substitute teacher accidentally clicks a link which shows an entire website full of that type of anime. And every kid in class, remember, this is a 7th grade class, so every kid's like, "Yo, what's on screen right now?" Just every single kid is going crazy, dude. And at this point, Gavin, he's not trying to be a butt, right? He's not trying to be that kid who's right, But at the same time, bro, I don't know, this substitute teacher is being a real pain. A real kind of I don't know, a real tight guy, a real tight butt. I don't know, dude. He was really just so it was just really a break in character for him, and also super embarrassing. And bro, Gavin looks at the substitute teacher, and the substitute teacher's face goes pale, and he's frantically pressing buttons on the AirPlay. And the thing is, dude, he disconnects his computer, but for some reason the AirPlay screen is now frozen on the website, and everyone in the class is like, "Yo, bro, what's going on? Look at what the substitute teacher's looking at on the bored. And at this point, Gavin, no, he didn't like the sub. He really didn't, because the sub came in with such an attitude and was not making the class fun. But he had to feel bad for the guy, bro. Gavin had to feel bad for the guy. And eventually, right, the teacher just pulls the plug to the screen recording software or whatever, right? Or the I don't know, the TV. He just like unplugs the TV, and eventually it just stopped showing on screen. But at this point, dude, the damage had been done. Oh man, the damage had been done. That is an understatement. Every kid in the class was still like, look at that. Look on the screen, bro. Look on the screen. Like, oh my God, our substitute teacher was watching anime, something. You know, and like at this point, the substitute teacher completely breaks character, goes in front of the entire class, is like, guys, please, like, what do you want me to do? I'll literally do anything as long as you guys don't tell the principal about this. Like, I don't know, this is like one of my first gigs. I'm trying to like eventually go into full-time teaching. This is so embarrassing. Please, like, whatever you guys want for us to not tell, for me to not tell. And this one kid, who's kind of a jerk, right? But this one kid who's like, all right, well then let's have recess for the rest of class. And at this point, right, the substitute teacher's like, dude, you're in 7th grade. Do you even still have recess? And the kid's like, well, not until you give it to us, because then we're going to have recess. At this point, the substitute teacher is like about to pull out his hair, because he's like, dude, I can't give you this. And then, you know, the guy's like, well, I guess we're telling the principal about the little thing that happened on screen today. And the substitute teacher's like, fine. All right, you guys can go outside for the rest of class. It's only 20 minutes anyways. Go, have fun. Comment teacher down below if you want a heart on your comment. I'll be trying to heart as many comments as I can see that say teacher. That's the secret word of the day. So anyways, right, all the kids rush outside. Yeah, right, you know, they're all going out to like have recess or whatever. They're excited. Gavin kind of walks out kind of slowly. Gavin isn't like celebrating this dude. He's not trying to celebrate the downfall of a man. Like this guy literally crumbled right in front of them, dude. Like, it was crazy. Like, he really went from all high and mighty and, like, professional, and I'm gonna be the strict teacher that, you know, gives you the harsh love and education that you really need to, guys, I'll literally do whatever you want. Don't tell the principal I had anime weird stuff on my phone, on the screen, bro. Like, that's crazy. That's a downfall, man. That's one of those like 50-minute YouTube documentaries, the rise and fall of so-and-so, but within like 5 minutes. But that's crazy. Anyways, right, Gavin and the other kids, eventually they go outside and they're literally just having recess. However, at this school, recess stops at 6th grade. So the principal is just in their office and they look outside and they're just like, what? Those kids are way too old to be having like recess. And he also looks at his like phone. He's like, dude, this is like class period for like the upper school. Like, dude, what? So eventually, like, the principal walks outside, and he goes up to one of the kids. He's like, hey, like, what's up? And one of the kids is like, oh, our teacher gave us recess. And the principal's like, oh, all right. Okay, that's a little weird. So then the teacher goes to another kid. And this other kid, bro, when he sees the principal, he kind of like, dude, the other kid literally folds. For some reason, the other kid thinks he's in trouble, which, you know, they're not. I mean, the principal let them out. Or not the principal, but the teacher let them out, you know, even if he is a sub and even if they did low-key blackmail him. But anyways, right, this kid was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. And the only way to get me out of trouble is to tell the truth. So he was one of those people who was told, like, oh, if you tell the truth, you'll always be okay. Bro, telling the truth is good, but not in every situation, dude. Sometimes the truth is not the answer. But anyways, right, so eventually this kid explains everything to the principal. And Gavin was close enough, and he was overhearing the conversation. And dude, this kid explained in painstaking detail everything. And when I mean everything, he even described certain details of the website that was on screen. At that point, the principal kind of gave this like weird grimace look at him. He's like, dude, what? So eventually, right, the principal, like, you know, speaks kind of loudly. He's like, class or whatever. And everyone kind of like looks up and looks back. He's like, guys, you can't be out here unsupervised. No one is out here. I'm sorry to cut this short, but I'm going to have you guys go back inside. Just go sit somewhere, like, until your next class period. I can't have you out here unsupervised. Also, which class did you come from? I need to speak with your substitute teacher. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it. You might think that you've had the worst teacher. Maybe you received a bad grade unfairly. Maybe they hate you for no good reason. Maybe they make their tests unnecessarily hard because, I don't know, they hate their students. But let me just know that your stories have nothing on the story that graced my Instagram DMs just a couple days ago and that I am telling today. Let's call the subscriber in the story. Let's call him Steven. Anyways, right? So this all happened when Steven was in his senior year of high school. It's almost time for him to go out. It's fall of senior year. It's a pretty stressful time as this is kind of college application seasons, if that's the path you choose to go, and that was the path that Steven chose to go. This is also, if you don't know, your senior grades, if you're applying to college, can be the most important along with your junior, spring, and fall, as a lot of colleges will just kind of ignore your freshman year or just not really care about them that much. So it did not help that when on the third week of class, right, Steven, who's been turning in his homework every single day on time because he realizes how important these grades are, one day his teacher, says, "Hey, Steven, I didn't get the work." And Steven distinctly remembers doing the work, handing it in, and just doing the work and handing it in. He distinctly remembers doing it, but he's thinking that it's either I don't know, maybe he really did forget and he's having some hallucinations or something. Maybe the teacher just misplaced it. And instead of having a big fight with the teacher, Steven says, "All right, I can do it again. It's not a big deal, even though I do believe I did hand it in, but it's fine. I'll do it again." It was kind of it was not that big of an assignment. I think it was just writing notes on a chapter they were assigned to read. So Steven does the work again, hands it in, no big problem. The next homework assignment they have, and they don't have it every day, they have it every couple days. The next assignment they have, Steven does it, he hands it in, and the teacher says, "Hey, Steven, I didn't receive the work." And Steven says, "All right, well, this time I actually do believe I did turn it in. This happened before, and I don't think look, there's obviously something going on that isn't just me not doing the work and turning it in." And the teacher looks at Steven and says, "Steven, you didn't do the work. Do it again, or you're getting an F on that assignment." Steven is understandably not a happy camper, but at this point there's only so much he can do, and he is, next time when he does the work and he goes to turn it in, he looks at the teacher, we're just going to call him Mr. Davenport. That's the last name I use for every teacher. I'm not that creative. He looks at Mr. Davenport straight in the eyes and hands it in and says, here is my work. You see me handing it in. And Mr. Davenport says, "Yeah, Steven, why are you acting weird?" And Steven's like, "Okay." So I turned it in. The next day rolls around, Mr. Davenport pulls up to Steven's desk, and he's like, "Steven, this is the third time in a row you've not turned in the homework." And Steven just looks at him like, "Yesterday, I came up to you, I looked you in the eyes, and I asked you if you noticed, this is the homework I'm turning in." And Mr. Davenport said, "Steven, I don't recall this, don't lie to me, lying is a pretty, it's a big offense at the school, you could get in a ton of trouble, redo the work." At this point, Steven was like, "All right, this is not malpractice. This is not just being an idiot on either side, on either party. This is legitimately coming from my soul, right? He's doing this on purpose. This is not a joke anymore." And Steven starts to realize, because this continues, Steven actually just when he does his homework, he does it twice, and he keeps a copy for himself, because 70% of the time, sometimes Mr. Davenport just accepts it. 70% of the time, Mr. Davenport asks him to do it again because he didn't hand it in or whatever. So he just makes another copy every single time he does the work. And Steven is noticing that this guy is not a good teacher. In fact, it's not just Steven that he's messing with. He's messing with a lot of other kids in the class, and they're talking to Steven about it, and Steven's telling them about his experience, and this all kind of starts to accumulate until one day they really do believe that Mr. Davenport went way too far with his trolling / being a jerk. So one day, a girl in Steven's class, and in Mr. Davenport's class, I guess, came in and, went up to his kind of to the front desk, but not to the front desk, but where he sat at his little desk. And it was, she wasn't speaking super loud, but since Steven sat kind of closer to the front of the class, he was able to overhear what happened. And also, most of the front row was able to overhear what happened. Basically, right,
The girl explains to Mr. Davenport that recently her uncle just like passed away and that they were having a funeral and that she had to be gone Thursday and Friday to fly over and get to the funeral on Friday, but she'd be back Monday, and just asking what work are they going to need to do, what does she need to do to make up for this. A very reasonable request. I mean, someone in the family died and they have to go away for only 2 days. Sometimes you have to go, people go away for weeks at a time when this happens, understandably, right? And Mr. Davenport looks her straight in the eyes and says, this funeral, it's very convenient that it's not on a weekend. And Stephen just turns to the person next to him because he thinks to himself, I must have something in my ears. Like, my ears must have some blockage in them if that's just legitimately what I just heard. And, when Stephen looks at the person next to him, this guy, let's call him Ben, his mouth is just wide open because Ben also heard what Stephen just heard. Eventually, right, Mr. Davenport says, all right, fine, whatever. Like, this is what we're doing. I'll give you the assignments. Like, just get them to me as soon as you come back Monday. And yeah, just goes back and sit down. And, the girl does. At this point, Stephen, he's beyond pissed at this point because he's been like, his patience for Mr. Davenport, it's been zero for a while because Mr. Davenport has been intentionally trolling with them, which is pretty messed up because, it's senior year. This is where grades really matter and you're making the kid do twice as much work, right? And he's been messing with other kids. And I wasn't given specific examples, but just assume other kind of like things along the lines of this messing with them because Mr. Davenport was like bored or something, right? But this kind of like goes a little bit too far because this girl, who's a pretty sensitive girl apparently, she had a family member die and she had a request just like, I need to go and like to the funeral. I'm going to be gone for 2 days. And the teacher says, that's suspicious that it's not on a weekend and you'd miss class. You really think she's going to fake missing 1 day of class while saying, hey, I'll do all the work to go for... It just makes no sense.
Real quick, comment teacher down below. That's going to be the secret word of the day. I'll try and heart some comments that say teacher. Anyways, right, Stephen has had enough. So he gathers, he talks to his other classmates. And after talking to about 2 or 3 other ones, he kind of gauges that the rest of the class is also really pissed off. So what he does, right, he goes and he gets together. He kind of like makes a big group chat on some messaging site, iMessage, Snapchat. It doesn't really matter. And more or less says, hey, so we've all had a lot of issues with Mr. Davenport, and recently after what happened to, let's call her Lucy, I don't really care, man, the girl who had like the uncle die and whatever, right? After what happened to Lucy today, I really just think we got to do something about this. Like, this teacher really just needs to be stopped. We already have enough on our plates. We're a pretty good class, and it just kind of seems like this guy is just a jerk to us because he's bored. So other people in the class who were added to the group chat start like talking and saying like, yeah, we 100% agree. Like, we need to do something about this guy. He's awful. But then a few people have actually said, hey, like, this guy's been kind of trolling with me recently. And, I reported him and the reports have really gone nowhere, or at least nothing public has happened. Like, maybe he got a talking to or something behind the scenes, but it really seems like everything that's been going on has been a slap on the wrist. You guys, audience, might be thinking, Connor, this teacher sucks, but my teacher was worse. Well, the story isn't over, man. I'm about to explain why he is actually the worst teacher of all time. So Stephen was on his phone, kind of like reading the messages in the group chat and starting to feel a little bit discouraged because, he's reading the fact that other people have spoken up about this teacher before. And then he gets a private message from a girl, let's just call her Kate. I'm just thinking of random names at this point. So Kate, swipes up, or doesn't swipe up, but messages Stephen privately and says, hey, like, can I have your number? Like, okay, maybe this wasn't on iMessage because she asks him for his number. This was probably on Snapchat. So she says, hey, can I have your number? I need to call you about what's going on. Something pretty personal, pretty private, but I think might be really important to what we're talking about. So Stephen, who's now very interested because he's like, oh, wow, this... like, I have no idea what this could be, gives Kate his number and, receives a call from a random number, picks it up. And he said, hey, is this Kate? And Kate says, yes, this is me. And then Kate goes on to drop probably one of the biggest bombshells of all time. Stephen was completely slack-jawed, emotionless, wide-eyed by the end of this story. Let me tell you what Kate told him. This girl explained to Stephen that she, for the last couple months, because, she started this before the school year even began, she's been having an illegal relationship with Mr. Davenport.
And she says that, she's been noticing what's been going on, and, she's realized that Mr. Davenport is pretty manipulative. He's like probably like a psychopath or whatever. And that she's also at the same time of realizing how much of like a butt, this guy is, and, all the stuff he's been doing to people. She's also realized how messed up the relationship she has with him, because it's obviously secret. It's obviously very secret. And Mr. Davenport has been like, oh my God, you need to keep this super secret. You can't tell it to anyone, which is like, if you're having a relationship with someone, unless you have like crazy protective parents or something like that, in most cases, keeping it super private is probably not like, the reasons probably aren't good. And in this situation, the reasons are obviously terrible. So Kate goes on to tell Stephen that she wants to turn Mr. Davenport in, more or less. And Stephen, says, hey, like, just because he's a jerk to us, like, that shouldn't be your main motivation. Like, I want to make sure that you know that I am 100% behind you, but because you're in a messed up relationship, not because of what has been happening right now. Trust me, please. So anyways, right, Steven, hangs up the call and just kind of sits there for a second and is like, geez, like, I knew this guy was bad, but like, this is just beyond unacceptable. Like, the other stuff, right, was kind of just like, oh, he's toying with us, oh, like, whatever, right? Oh, he was kind of insensitive to that girl whose uncle passed away, right? But this is straight up, like, illegal stuff. So anyways, the next day rolls around, and Steven finds Kate, and he's like, hey, like, I'm so sorry. And Kate's like, you know what, I'm okay. I'm personally fine, but I'm afraid this will happen to someone else. We need to tell someone about it. So Steven and Kate, they kind of get together a case. Kate just has a slew of evidence from text messages and a bunch of stuff, right? They got him, basically. They got him. It was some ladies and gentlemen, we got him type evidence. Like, there was no getting out of it. So Steven, says, Kate, you can do this alone, but I'd be very happy to do this with you if you want someone to do it with you. Kate says, hey, can you actually do this with me? Like, I don't know if I want to go through this alone. Steven 100% obliges. He also says, hey, like, I'm assuming you don't want to tell everyone about this. And Kate said, right now, no, but I think at some point I wouldn't mind if, like, we told people about this. But for now, let's just focus on getting this done. Steven 100% agreed. Dislike getting it out before they do anything would just probably make more issues happen. So they go to the principal's office, and it was a very uncomfortable conversation the entire time. The principal was kind of expecting, like, OMG, high school drama. Nope, this is like actually really serious illegal stuff. So all Steven knows is that Mr. Davenport did get fired from the school. The school was mandatory. Like, they reported it to the police. So I think they either they felt like it was mandatory or they felt like a moral obligation to. Either way, they did report it, like, further up. However, Steven has literally no idea what happened to Mr. Davenport after the fact. No idea what happened because Mr. Davenport, like, he didn't know him outside of class, and once he was out of the school, he was like, Steven looked him up online on social media. Literally nothing came up about him. So Steven to this day has no idea. Now can you understand why I said this teacher was the worst teacher of all time? Now can you understand? Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it. Today I got probably one of the craziest story times I've received in a while, so just sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. So we'll call the subscriber James, and James was in 5th grade, and James had a 5th grade teacher who was definitely going through the works, to say the least. James was only kind of aware that, him and his, like, wife, or I guess maybe ex-wife, I'm not totally sure, were going through some issues because James's mom mentioned something about it very briefly. More or less, James's mom said, oh, be nice to Mr. Davenport. We're going to call the teacher that, by the way. For some reason, and James is like, oh, why? And James's mom was like, oh, he's like, I don't know, he's having issues with his marriage or whatever. I don't know how James's mom knows, but, moms kind of just know all the gossip, how it is. So James's mom, like, James was a little bit aware of this, but Mr. Davenport, up until this day, right, he hadn't said anything to the class about, his marriage or any of his issues. But I guess today, the fateful day, I guess Mr. Davenport really just had enough and he felt like he needed to tell someone about it. So anyways, on this specific day, James walks into class like it's a normal day, any other day. And he gets in there and he sits down
And Mr. Davenport is, he's not there. He's late. And this is kind of weird because, like, Mr. Davenport is never late. He's always, like, there 30 minutes before anyone else. So everyone's kind of, like, a little weirded out / concerned because they have no idea where Mr. Davenport is, and he's known for being super early all the time. Eventually, right, Mr. Davenport walks into class and he just looks like a mess. It looks like he hasn't slept for the last 48 hours. He's just not looking good. And even though this is a class of 5th graders, they all have enough, like, I don't know, social awareness to know that, like, something isn't right. But, no, I mean, no one in that class is going to say anything. They're not going to be like, hey, Mr. Davenport, you look like you like garbage today. What's up? Like, no one's going to be that kid and say that. So they all kind of just sit there and wait for class to begin like normal. And Mr. Davenport sits at his desk. And he just kind of like sits there and slumps down all defeated. And everyone there is kind of confused. I mean, half the kids were told by their parents, like, hey, just a heads up. Your teacher's kind of going through it, so be extra nice. But the other half, the kids, like, weren't even told. And, like, the kids that were told were kind of, like, okay and probably didn't think anything of it. And Mr. Davenport is like, guys, we're going to have a very special lesson plan today. And, James in his head was like, oh, we going to watch a movie? Are we going to talk about, like, a really fun piece of history? Like, what do you mean, special plan? Mr. Davenport kind of throws them a curveball. He's just like, today we're not going to be talking about history because this was a history class, by the way. He's like, you know what? Today I'm going to teach you something about the real world. I'm going to teach you about, something you can actually use and not some stupid dates or whatever. Immediately, the entire class was totally thrown off by this because Mr. Davenport was always one of those, like, kind of very upbeat, very happy, very, yay, learning is fun, guys. But today he really just comes in and says, dude, everything I've been teaching you is, like, completely, like, useless. Let me actually teach you something that you're going to be able to use. So, James and the rest of the class kind of already realized that today was not going to be a normal day, but they did not necessarily expect it to go the way it did, which, I mean, I don't think anyone possibly could have. It was kind of a ridiculous day. But anyways, Mr. Davenport goes to the front of the class. He says, all right, guys, so marriage. A wonderful thing, right? I mean, when you load up a movie, you load up a TV show, and you think of marriage, you're just seeing, like, butterflies, rainbows, pots of gold, like wonderful, happy, smiling people. Wrong. False. I need you guys to take this preconceived notion that is in your mind and tear it to shreds. At this point, James is like, oh, God, like, this is not going to be good. Look, James was in 5th grade, but he was like, he was socially aware enough, as I was saying. He's socially aware enough to know that, like, something's not right here. And, yes, he could just tell that this class was not going to be a normal class. And Mr. Davenport was like, so, what did you guys take away from this so far? And he's asked one of the kids, he's like, Ben. And Ben's like, marriage isn't, like, good. And Mr. Davenport's like, Ben, perfect. Thank you for paying attention. So, why is marriage not perfect? And this is where things get pretty bad. This is where really it gets really bad after this point, so just a heads up. But he's like, Mr. Davenport's like, so why is marriage not good, right? Well, if you choose a wife, right, and she's unfaithful and sleeps with your neighbor, well, that would be a reason why marriages aren't great. The entire class goes silent. And Mr. Davenport kind of stops after that sentence. I think he started to realize that he just explained to the class of 5th graders that his marriage was failing because his wife slept with his neighbor. That's definitely not totally inappropriate for a 5th grade class setting. But almost immediately, right, Mr. Davenport is kind of like, oh, shoot, like, what did I just say? Mr. Davenport, who was kind of in a mood of, like, I don't know, he was kind of, like, he completely snaps out of it, and he's like, guys, I'm so, like, he just starts, like, shaking his head. He's like, guys, I'm so sorry, like, I'm really going through it, I'm really struggling, I'm really having a tough time, I should not have brought any of this information, like, I should not have told you any of this. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, let's just have a fun movie day for the rest of class. James is just sitting there taking this all in because 1 second, right, he comes in, Mr. Davenport starts talking about how marriage is awful and your wife will literally sleep with your neighbor if you're not paying attention, right? And then a second later, he is like begging for their forgiveness and saying that they're going to have a fun movie day today. But I mean, James is not complaining. I mean, hey man, I love those movie days. Like, I wouldn't be complaining either, dude. Real quick, comment class down below if you made it this far into the video. I'll try and heart as many comments as possible that say that. This is the secret word of the day. I'll be able to heart more comments than I have in the last couple days because I'm officially done with exams. I survived. You'll love to see it. But anyways, right, James is kind of just sitting there and, Mr. Davenport is going to put on a movie. He's like, all right, class, like, I got a really fun movie planned. I used to love this one as a kid. I'm sure you guys are going to love this movie too. Like, this is going to be so much fun, right? And he's like, you know what? Can we also just like all agree, like, can we just all come in agreement, just not to mention what happened today to anyone? Mr. Davenport, we're probably getting a lot of trouble for that, guys. And it was a genuine mistake, and he's really going through it and losing, if Mr. Davenport, he starts talking about himself in the third person, which is kind of weird, but he's like, and if Mr. Davenport was to lose his job, his only source of income, and have to go through, this BS with his wife. And then he's like, all right, that would not be good. And at this point, James is starting to realize that Mr. Davenport kind of crossed the line when he over-explained about, the intimate parts of his life, and that he was starting to fear that if any kid told the principal or staff or parent or anything, that he could legitimately get fired. So that his plan was that he was going to have a really fun day with them, have a nice movie or whatever, and ask them very politely not to mention this to anyone. And James, he really did mess with Mr. Davenport. Mr. Davenport was a very fun teacher. He was very, he made learning fun. He was very chill. He was understanding. And obviously, Mr. Davenport kind of just had a mini mental breakdown, and that's not really his fault in James's mind. So James was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to tell anyone. And the rest of the class was kind of in agreement, or at least it seemed like that, they just weren't going to tell anyone about this little incident. And the rest of the class was really fun. They watched a movie. Mr. Davenport was having some fun activities. He's like, all right, you know what? I was planning to have homework today, but since today was kind of just a weird day, we'll start normal class up tomorrow. Don't worry about it. You guys have fun tomorrow, fun tonight or whatever. Whole class is like, let's go, no homework. It's a good day. And they're walking out of class, and this one kid, we're gonna call him Ty, right? He comes up to James, and Ty and James are kind of friendly. James doesn't really go to a school with that big of a class, so he kind of knows everyone. Ty isn't his best friend or anything, but he knows Ty on a pretty good basis. And Ty comes up to him, and he's like, hey, James, what happened today? Mr. Davenport really kind of overshared. I was thinking of going to the principal and explaining everything that happened. And James is like, dude, no, yes, Mr. Davenport really did cross the line and he should not have said what he did. But at the same time, he's a really cool teacher. He was just over, it was a mistake. And if we tell anyone, he's most definitely going to lose his job, which is his only source of income, and he's going through divorce, and he's a cool teacher. I'm not trying to get stuck with a really terrible substitute. And, Ty's like, oh, I guess you got a point. I guess I won't be telling anyone. Or so James thought, right? Because the next day, James comes in expecting Mr. Davenport to be sitting there, one of his favorite teachers, but no, it is a substitute teacher. And the substitute teacher's like, all right, class, open up to page 58 of the textbook. We will be reading chapters 8 and 9. And James is just like, oh my God, whoa. At first, James is thinking, okay, well, whatever, right? Mr. Davenport probably had to take some days off to deal with the situation with his wife. This is probably no big deal. But James starts to soon realizes that is not the case at all. Because, the reason why, James realizes that, this is not going to be a temporary substitute teacher is when during the class, the substitute teacher makes a reference to how that, they'll the sub will probably be their teacher for the rest of the year. And when James hears that, man, his heart literally sinks because, he loved Mr. Davenport, and Mr. Davenport was probably one of his favorite teachers and made him excited to learn. And this substitute teacher really did just come in and is just forcing them to read pages out of a textbook. The substitute teacher has no idea. It's not really the sub's fault. They probably were just thrown into this, but they're doing a terrible job teaching. They're really just making it the most dull and bland teaching possible. And James is starting to realize that, something happened to Mr. Davenport in which, he probably was not going to be coming back to being a teacher, aka he probably got fired, aka probably someone mentioned what happened in like class the couple days ago. So sure enough, right, when class ends, James immediately finds Ty and he's like, bro. And Ty's like, what? And James is like, just kind of gives him a look, and Ty's like, fine, yeah, all right, I told the principal. And James is like, bro, why? Why would you do it? And Ty's like, well, I don't think it was like super right of him to overshare like that. And James is like, dude, yeah, but the guy is fired now. Like, that guy is definitely not coming back. Like, you know how, like, he was a good teacher, right? And Ty's like, yeah, I guess, but, like, it was weird what he said. And James is like, yeah, it was weird what he said. But, he also said it once, and it was obviously a mistake. And now we're stuck with this really crappy sub. And Ty's like, all right, man, like, whatever. It's like, it's not my fault. And James is like, it kind of is. The truth is, right, Ty was totally in his right to report that because that was a weird thing for, Mr. Davenport to say. But James, the subscriber who sent him the story, was specifically not very happy about that at all. And it doesn't end there because James, the end of the day, his mom comes and picks him up and his mom's like, hey, James, like, why didn't you tell me about that class you had with Mr. Davenport yesterday? And James is like, oh, like, I didn't really think much of it. And James's mom was like, oh, well, I'm seeing this thing on Facebook of these moms of people in your class. They're getting really mad and they're wanting to, like, take Mr. Davenport to court for, like, exposing such, secrets about his marriage and, like, how inappropriate what he said was and how angry they are. And, James's mom is like, are you okay? And James is like, yes, Mom, I am fine. Actually, I'm kind of upset that, like, we have a new crappy sub. That was, like, one of my favorite teachers. And James's mom is like, yeah, I mean, I guess, but, like, Mr. Davenport was weird for what he said. And, James is like, yeah, I mean, fair, I guess. But, I'm not trying, like, I didn't really care. The rest of class didn't really care. And James's mom's like, well, I think it's just good for you to know that, like, all the moms, like, that there's, like, a petition going on and, like, the moms are forming a group that they're going to try and pursue Mr. Davenport out of school. And, then James's mom goes on to say, oh, yeah, by the way, like, Mr. Davenport is no longer a school. His contract was terminated. And James kind of is like, James kind of knew that was the case, but he was kind of just sad to hear that. And James is like, why are you guys going after him? Like, he's lost everything, Mom. Like, he's in a terrible spot in his marriage, which is definitely over. He just lost his only source of income. Do we really need to dogpile on him? And James's mom's like, yeah, I mean, it's not me who's doing it. Like, I'm just watching the group and, like, showing some support just because, I don't know, I don't want the moms to hate me. But, yeah, it's more Ty's mom. And James is like, dude, Ty was the one who turned them in. And James' mom's like, oh, well, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Ty's mom is, like, the one who is really, like, leading the charge against, Mr. Davenport. But yeah, so while Mr. Davenport is still fired and does not return to the school, the group of, like, moms does not end up suing him or anything. It was a lot of empty talk. Eventually, they weren't getting anywhere, so the group kind of just disbanded. But yeah, James apparently said that the substitute turned into the permanent teacher for the rest of the year, and James said that was probably one of his worst experiences in a classroom ever. Like, not what Mr. Davenport said, but the substitute's teaching. It was so dry, it was so bland, they obviously had no passion about what they were doing. I mean, they were a sub being forced into the situation on last minute, so, like, what can you expect? But James was like, yeah, the rest of that year was terrible. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it. Today we got a story of a teacher who catches a kid using the school computer to look at some pretty spaghetti-o naughty websites. However, it is much deeper than that and a really crazy story that I know you guys will enjoy. So subscribe if you like stories, leave a like in the video, and let's call today's subscriber Emmett. So this all happened one day when Emmett was in class, and during this class, they were using the computer lab. At Emmett's school, the school had like a kind of a place where they had a bunch of computers, and classes could rent out the room to go on the internet, basically. So basically, this happened one day in the computer lab, and Emmett was on his computer just kind of doing what he was told to do. They were told to, I don't know, do a research project. By the way, this happened in 4th grade, so they had a pretty simple research project. I don't know about you, but I was not asked to do any crazy research projects when I was in 4th grade. It was pretty simple. It was pretty run-of-the-mill. He had to look up like something about a topic and get like one source, and he had to cite it very simply, right? So anyways, there was also a bully in Emmett's class. And in Emmett's class, this bully had been picking on Emmett for a while, but it was nothing too serious until today, where he almost got Emmett in a ton of trouble, as you'll see. So Emmett had to go use the bathroom, and he kind of got up from his computer and left to go use the bathroom, right? And the teacher was very busy on, her computer. She was not really looking at what was going on, and she kind of just let the kids go ahead and do whatever they wanted to do. So the bully saw this as a perfect opportunity. One, the teacher was not paying attention, and two, Emmett was away from the computer, and the teacher did not know that Emmett left or that the bully was going to go mess with the computer. So what the bully did is, while Emmett was gone, the bully went up to Emmett's computer, went up on Google, and looked up a whole host of really bad stuff. You guys can fill in the gaps. I'm not going to say anything specific, but a lot of websites that were definitely not school friendly, and we're going to get him in a lot of trouble because he looked them up, not just for the fact of looking them up, but also because they were on school computers. It was during school hours, and it was really not what he was supposed to be doing on those computers anyways. So the bully knew that Emmett was going to get into a bit of trouble. And so anyways, right, Emmett eventually comes back from the bathroom break, and before, Emmett came back, the bully made sure to open up a new tab and delete the old tab, but not delete the old tab search history. So anyways, right, Emmett is back on his computer doing what he's normally doing, and the bully goes up to the teacher saying that, "Oh, Miss Teacher, I saw Emmett using the computer inappropriately, Miss Teacher. I think he deleted the tabs, but go check his search history. He was looking up a lot of really bad stuff and scaring kids, and I need you to help." And the teacher's like, all right, Mr. Bully. Obviously says his real name, but I'm just going to call him Mr. Bully. All right, Mr. Bully, I'll go look into it. You can go back to your project or whatever. So Emmett is just sitting at his computer. He's just kind of doing what he's supposed to be doing. And the teacher comes up and says, "Emmett, I've heard you've been looking up some inappropriate stuff on the computer. I need to check your search history." And Emmett, who was in the bathroom and had literally no idea, was like, that's not true. That's not the case. I've just been doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But yeah, go ahead and search it. I really don't care. I have literally nothing to hide. And so sure enough, right, the teacher goes on Emmett's computer, opens up the search history, and finds a lot of distasteful stuff. And I'm not really going to say what it is, but you can make some assumptions, a whole host of stuff. And she's like, "Emmett, I was really hoping that this report was false. I'm so disappointed in you. You're such a good kid. Why would you look up all this disgusting stuff on the school search history?" So Emmett is like, "Haha, what are you talking about?" And he looks at the computer and looks at the search history. He's like, "Hey." And Emmett's like, but teacher, you got to understand, this wasn't me." And the teacher just says, "Oh, so what do you want me to believe? That, Google, the massive trillion-dollar corporation, decided to sabotage you, Emmett, individually for, I don't know, your crimes against their their company? Did you go ahead into their Google headquarters and steal their secrets?" And Emmett's like, I don't know. I just didn't type this stuff." And she's like, let me guess. You were hacked by a hacker or something?" Teacher was going in pretty hard. And Emmett's like, "You got to believe me." And the teacher's like, "Why would I believe you? It literally says here, all the things you searched up. This is your computer. It even says the times that these were searched." And Emma was like, "Oh, that's impossible. I left to go to the bathroom." And she's like, That's what they all say. Did a hacker come in and type this stuff? Did the boogeyman come in and harass your computer and kick you off it and then type all this stuff? And then, oh no, you tried to delete it and you tried to stop them, but you couldn't. Emmett, go to the front office. And Emmett's like, "No, I swear." And the teacher's like, "Emmett, I'm not going to tell you this again. Go to the front office. I'm going to write up a little report. And by the time you get there, the principal's going to know everything that you did." And Emmett's like, "You got to understand." And she's like, "What am I to understand? That the search history is false?" And Emmett's like, "No, you don't understand." She's like, "Go to the front office now." Sure enough, right, Emmett walks up to the front office and the principal's like, "Emmett, you're such a good kid. And the stuff that I saw that I was told that you were looking up, so disgusting, so disturbing. What happened to you? You've never been in here for anything negative before." And Emmett's like, "You got to believe me. I just didn't search that stuff up." And the principal's like, "From what the report I got from your teacher, it is, I just don't see how I could ever believe that." So sure enough, right, the principal's like, "Emmett, I hate to do this, right, but I gotta call up your mom and tell you what happened. And look, here's the thing, right? Whenever you do something, or when you're apparently framed for doing something that is a little bit, a little bit not so safe for work, right? And then the worst punishment, I would rather get in-school suspension. I would rather get detention. I would rather get a failing grade than having my parents know about it, bro. Like, somehow that is the worst punishment of them all. So yeah, sure enough, right, the principal calls up his mom, and Emmett's mom's like, oh, hello? Like, I'm in work right now. Do you need me to come in? Is Emmett, like, sick or something? And she's like, well, he's not sick, but I do need your attention for a little bit. Principal goes on in painstaking detail to explain everything that was filed in the report. Emmett is just sitting there in the chair, just like basically on the brink of tears at this point, just completely cringing out because it's just really uncomfortable. And he's hearing his mom sound so disappointed. And it is just honestly such an awful thing. And Emmett at this point is also so confused because he has no idea that the bully was the one who went on his computer, framed him, and then reported him falsely, right? So he's just sitting there and he's just feeling so gross and so awful and just so sad. It's a really terrible moment for him. So next day rolls around, and by the way, yes, his mom was very angry at him, and he got his like electronics taken away at home. It was just a bad day. Real quick, comment bully down below if you want to heart on your comment. The secret word of the day is bully. I'll try to heart as many comments as possible. And also, let me know in the comment section if you're ever binge watching my videos. If you don't know, the best way to support my channel and for my channel to grow is when you guys just watch a ton of my videos. Like if you just binge watch like a ton of the videos. And if you want to help with that, in the description are playlists of my videos and also in the playlist tab. Let me know and I'll try and personally thank you. But anyways, right back to the story. The next day, Emmett comes in. He's just in a bad mood because the last like 16 hours have been both humiliating, depressing, frustrating, and also super confusing because he has no idea what happened, right? And that's when he walked into school and he was just like, he had his backpack on, he was walking to class, kind of sulking around, and the bully comes up to him and stands right in front of him. Since Emmett is not looking where he's going, he bumps right into the bully, and the bully's like, huh. And Emmett's like, bro, why are you laughing? Like what's so funny? The bully's like, huh, do you like that little prank I pulled on you? And Emmett's like, wait, what? The bully's like, yeah, when you went to go to the bathroom, like I typed all those things in the search history, reported you, and then you got into massive trouble. At this point, right, Emmett just like everything clicked and he was furious. Emmett was like, how dare you do that to me? Like, it was like so bad. Like, I don't know, like I had to my mom heard about it, got my electronics taken away. I have to go to detention for the rest of the week. And the bully's like, looks like you took this L, bro. Looks like you took this L. Take this L, bro. L, you ratio. Just a lot of cringe like that. And Emmett is so mad. And he's like, dude, I'm going to report you. And, you know, the bully's like, yeah, and I'm going to deny it. And who are they going to believe? The kid who got in trouble and is saying, oh, someone else did it? Or me, who just said, like, it didn't happen. You know, you're not going to win this, bro. Take this L, unlucky. And the bully walks away. And Emmett is so angry. He is steaming. He's furious. Emmett is just so angry at this point, and he's walking into class, and he's just like, I have to do all this nonsense. Like, I can at least tell my mom about it. I don't know if she's going to believe me, but, you know, the bully is totally right. The principal is just going to think that I'm lying and probably just get me in more trouble. Emmett walks by, you know, the computer room, and as he walks by, Emmett looks into the computer room, and when he looks in, probably the greatest thing he has ever seen appeared. Or not appeared, but was there. When Emmett looked into the computer room, he saw security cameras because it's a room full of like thousands of dollars worth of electronics. Of course, they're going to have the place monitored. And Emmett was like, oh my God, like if they didn't delete the footage of like yesterday, right? And they can look at it, they can see footage of, and hopefully my computer is in sight, they can see footage of the bully getting out of his chair, going over to my computer, typing on it, and then going up to the teacher to tell on me, and they'll know that I was in the clear and that he was the one typing that stuff on the computer. So Emmett immediately races to the principal's office, knocks on the door, bum, 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 bum. The principal's like, come in, like, what's up? And Emmett was like, you're not going to believe me, but I will there's a chance I have proof. So Emmett goes on to explain that the bully came up to him, said all of that stuff, and that it wasn't actually him. And the principal's like, Emmett, like, don't lie to me. Like, that's only going to make things worse. And Emmett's like, no, I actually think I have proof. Do you have access to the security camera footage inside the computer room? And the principal's like, well, I don't have it directly, but I could ask someone about it. Like, they do delete it every 2 days. And Emma was like, it only happened yesterday. The footage is still there. And, the principal's like, all right, well, just so you know, if we look at the footage and it just shows you doing this, like, you're going to get in even more trouble. Emmett's like, I'm totally willing to take that risk because I'm telling the truth. So it takes a little while, about like 30 minutes or so, but eventually the principal, has access to the security camera footage, and it's also the security guard who like let them into like the main room and is like, all right, do you know when your class was? And Emmett says, oh, my class happened at X time. And so the security guard is like, all right, well, I found the time. The class was 45 minutes, so he's like, do you know about when you left to go to the bathroom? And Emmett's like, I think around the halfway mark. And, sure enough, they go to the halfway mark. They're watching for a couple minutes, and, Emmett's still on the computer, and the principal's like, Emmett, you've not left the computer. And Emmett's like, please, like, you can expel me if it shows proof that I was actually the one doing it. And the principal's like, all right. Sure enough, we'll just sit down, we'll look through this. And yeah, eventually they come to the point, and yeah, Emmett gets up. And he goes to the bathroom, and you know who comes over? The bully, and he's on the computer, and then he goes away, and he deletes, and then Emmett comes back, and the principal's like, oh my God. And Emmett just has this wave of relief rush over him, because he's like, finally, like, there's proof to what I'm saying. And the principal's like, I'm so sorry, Emmett, like, I had no idea. And Emmett's like, I wouldn't believe myself either if I'm being serious. And yeah, so sure enough, right, the principal's like, all right, I need you to, wait, can you clip this? And the security guard's like, yeah, I can get this to you in like, I don't know, 30 minutes. So they go back, and the principal's like, all right, I'm going to excuse you from whatever class you're missing. I'd like you to stay here. And they kind of wait around for 30 minutes until the video comes, and they get it by email. The principal's like, all right, perfect. And so principal goes over, connects to like the loudspeaker and says, hey, can bully, says the actual name, can bully come up to the front office? And so sure enough, right, the bully walks in and sees Emmett's face and is super startled, like super thrown off guard. And the bully sits down and is obviously a little bit nervous. And the principal explains that, that Emmett has, said that, the bully came and, did the search results himself, and that he set him up. But the principal did not mention anything about the footage, so the bully had no idea that his actions were caught on camera. The bully just thought that Emmett, after the bully like taunted him about it, went to the principal and told his side. So the bully's like, Miss Principal, right? Do you really believe that story? I mean, how preposterous is it? Emmett obviously, right? Emmett obviously just got caught, and, he's trying to get out of trouble, and he's trying to drag me down. Like, I'm a pretty good kid, and it's pretty sad and pretty disappointing to see Emmett try and take me down just because he made a mistake. Honestly, I hope this punishment, sets Emmett the right way. He's a good kid at heart, and he just made a mistake. But it's really just disappointing to see him try and take me down as well. And Emmett, while the entire time, while the bully was saying this like nonsense, right, was smiling, had this massive grin on his face. And so the principal was like, oh, is that the case? And, the bully's like, yep, that's what happened. Like, I'm sorry that, like, this had to be dragged out. And I'm sorry that, like, all your time is being wasted, Miss Principal. And the principal's like, yeah, I'm also sorry that my time's being wasted. Whips out her laptop, flips the thing around. She's had the video pulled up for a while. Hits play, and it's a videotape footage. And Emmett looks as the bully's face drops. And sure enough, it shows Emmett getting up, going off to the bathroom, and the bully walking over, typing on the computer, and then leaving. And the bully immediately, I mean, remember, 1 second ago, he was like, oh, it's so sad to see me being roped into this. I'm sorry your time's being wasted. The bully, immediately after seeing this, breaks into tears, like full on crying. And Emmett's like, bro, what? What's this tough guy persona? And then all this nonsense, dude. And the bully's like, oh, and the principal's like, all right, well, do you want to apologize to Emmett? And the bully's like, Emmett, please. And the bully literally gets out of the chair and drops to his knees. And it's like, Emmett, please forgive me. And Emmett's like, oh my God, this guy's such a loser. Oh my God, he doesn't say that. And, Emmett's like, you know what? It's fine. Like, don't worry about it. And the bully's like, thank you for your forgiveness. And Emmett kind of believes that the bully thought that, like, if he seems so remorseful and if Emmett forgave him, right, that he would get out of any punishment. Well, that was just simply not the case, because sure enough, the principal's like, all right, well, thank you for forgiving to Emmett, but now time for the punishment. And the bully was like, punishment? Because he really thought that if he was like crying and seemed so more remorseful, he wouldn't get a punishment. But yeah, that was just simply not the case. And yeah, so the bully, his mom was called, and Emmett was there when his mom was like to the bully, like says his full name, like, when you get home, I'm taking all of your electronics. You're not allowed to go out for so long. The bully's just crying the whole time. Emmett is just sitting here like, hey man, I'm sorry this happened to you, but bro, this is the straight up karma, dude. And yeah, so the bully, instead of Emmett getting a week of in-school detention, right, the bully gets a week of detention, and Emmett is set free. And moral of the story is just don't be the bully,
Click on the video
dude.
on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.
How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day, because today we have 3 stories of spoiled kids getting owned by the teacher. All of them are great, and I know you will enjoy them. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's get into the first story, where we're going to call the subscriber Finn. By the way, if you want to submit stories, submit them to my Twitter account, @connorpugs. It's in the description. With that being said, let's just jump right into it. So anyways, right. Man, I can't speak. Anyways, Finn is a college student. And he's currently in a college math class. And in this college math class, there's a kid who's kind of just like known as a kid who's pretty spoiled, like one of those kind of like entitled kids. And I don't mean someone who necessarily, I don't know, has like really rich parents or something like that, or, has more things provided for them so that they're like a little bit inconsiderate, they're a little bit arrogant, because they're definitely people that, just don't know any better. Like they'll just kind of assume certain things are like the normal for other people, but it's not. And I don't really consider those people like spoiled brats or whatever. That's just like, I don't know. That's obviously it's not the greatest thing. It's better to be aware of your surroundings. But when I mean spoiled kid, I mean like comes in, flexes his double wrists and iced out Rolexes, like drops his Amex black card on the table, is like, oh yeah, I'm self-made, when he literally has never worked a job in his life. But anyways, so this kid, we're just going to call him the spoiled kid. And there was a pretty big test in the math class. And there was basically 2 major tests for this college semester. And the grade was basically 50% the first test, 50% the second test. It was a brutal way to grade the class, but it was also somewhat easy in a sense, because if you just studied for the first test, or if you just studied really well for these 2 assignments, you got 100 in the course. You didn't have to show up any of the days at all, except the days of the test if you really wanted to, but it's really hard if you're struggling the subject. Anyways, so about halfway through the semester, it is the first test. It's the first assessment. And Finn is sitting in this college class. He's been studying for weeks at this point, and he's really nervous. I mean, I could totally understand where he's coming from. I would be personally terrified myself. And so in walks the spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid just kind of has this attitude to him. This kind of has this kind of like, I don't know, he's just like super confident, super just full of himself. And you could kind of tell, right? So the spoiled kid sits right in front of Finn. And so the teacher passes around the test, is like, all right, you guys have 2 hours to finish this. You may finish early. In fact, I expect almost all of you to finish this before the 2 hours. I give about 1 hour worth of material, so if it takes you, it should not take you more than 2 hours, and everyone may begin. And sure enough, everyone whips out, like starts writing down. Finn is kind of nervous because he's feeling okay about the test, but I don't know if you guys have taken a math test before, and you're going through it, and you're like, yeah, I think I got the right answer. The worst thing is when you think you got the right answer, you don't know you got the right answer. Like you get an answer and it's like not a super clean number, comes out as a bunch of decimal points, and you're like, okay, that doesn't seem good. But who knows? But the thing was, Finn looked in front of him, and the spoiled kid was sitting there. And the spoiled kid was sitting there, and he had his backpack. And his backpack, the spoiled kid began to reach into his backpack. Finn, being easily distracted, started paying attention to the spoiled kid. And he looks as the spoiled kid reaches into the backpack and kind of just assumes that, oh, okay, whatever, right? The spoiled kid is just reaching in for a pencil, maybe an eraser, maybe a piece of scratch paper, which would have been a little sus, but whatever. But instead, the spoiled kid reaches into his backpack and grabs an iPad. Not his phone, not like something small, a full-on iPad. Not an iPad mini, a full iPad, right? And he takes out the iPad and he puts it on his lap. To be fair, it was a somewhat discreet position. It was not super obvious that there was an iPad on his lap. But the spoiled kid opens up the iPad and literally goes to Safari, the Google search engine on iPads, and he opens it up. And he starts typing. He goes to like he starts typing in the questions into Google and just getting the answers. Like sometimes he has to like literally search through message boards like Reddit or I don't know. Okay, they wouldn't use Stack Overflow to math class. But he'd be searching through stuff like, I don't know, Reddit, Wolfram Alpha, all these sites or whatever. And he was like finding the answers every single time. And at this point, right, Finn was looking at him. He's like, this kid's crazy. Dude's gonna get caught. There's not a chance that dude doesn't get caught. Like, are you kidding me? You can't be, like, you cannot be serious here. And sure enough, right, the spoiled kid is, he's, just going along, like, just going through writing down his answers. And Finn is kind of distracted now, is watching as the math teacher, who is at the front of the class, just kind of like grading stuff, gets up to just casually walk around. Because I don't know about you, but when I have tests, sometimes the teacher just decides to stroll around. Sometimes the teacher wants to see, what other people are doing and how they're doing. And just making sure that they're not blatantly cheating like the spoiled kid is here. So Finn quickly puts his eyes back on his own paper because he doesn't want to be accused of looking at the spoiled kid's work or anything. But he can't concentrate right now because he knows for a fact that the spoiled kid is about to be outed as a big old cheater, right? And so sure enough, the teacher walks around, and the thing is, the teacher is kind of doing a snake pattern throughout the desks. So instead of approaching the spoiled kid front on, he approaches the spoiled kid from the back, which maybe if the teacher started one row earlier and he would have ended up approaching the spoiled kid from the front, the spoiled kid would have noticed that someone was approaching him and he would have either turned off the iPad or at least stopped using it actively. But unfortunately for the spoiled kid, the teacher was approaching from behind. And as the teacher got closer and closer, the teacher ended up passing by Finn and stopping right next to Finn's desk. Not, of course, to look at what Finn was doing, but to observe the spoiled kid who was sitting one desk ahead of Finn. The spoiled kid was very clearly going on his iPad, typing on it, scrolling through to find answers, and then writing on his test. And the teacher's under his breath, he's like, "Spoiled kid, what are you doing?" Obviously says the actual name of the spoiled kid, but it's spoiled kid, are you cheating? And the spoiled kid's looks up, turns around, shuts off the iPad, and is no, I'm not cheating. And, the teacher's like, well, what were you doing with that iPad? And the spoiled kid's well, I just had it out. And, the teacher's like, I'm sorry, but even if you just have your, I made it very clear in the beginning of class, you cannot have any sort of device out. Even if you weren't cheating, we would have no way to know if you were or weren't, and we just have to assume you are. The spoiled kid's like, well, I'm just going to finish this test. You can take this iPad if you want. It was just lying around. And the thing was, Finn knew that the teacher was watching the spoiled kid cheating on the iPad actively. It's not I don't know, the spoiled kid forgot to put the iPad away and it just happened to be out. It was on and he was using it. And then he just turns it off as soon as the teacher asks him what he's doing. And the teacher's like, no, I can't do that. I need to take your test now. I'm sorry. I have to mark it as a 0, which first of all is devastating. That is absolutely devastating because, 50% of your grade is a 0. You cannot pass that class. I don't care if you get 100% on your other test. I don't care if you get 100% and 10% with extra credit. You're not passing that class. So at this point, the spoiled kid, who definitely doesn't want to have to redo the class again, is I don't think so. I'm going to finish this test and I'm going to hand it to you and you're going to grade it. And the teacher is bro, in his head, he's you're talking back to me? And Finn is starting to be oh my God, I'm going to need the whole 2 hours to finish this test because I can't pay attention for the life of me. And the teacher's are you talking back to me? And at this whole time in the beginning, the teacher and the spoiled kid were kind of whisper fighting back and forth. But now the teacher full on said in his full voice, "Are you talking back to me?" And the whole class turns and looks, right? The whole test has been derailed. And the spoiled kid's if I were you, I would be careful, Mr. Teacher. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing you gotta know. The teachers who cross me, and cross me bad? You know, my dad knows a person or two on the board. They know a person or two, right? And the thing is, if I give my dad a word that you, sir, are being, mischievous. Okay, I don't think he said mischievous, though. I don't think that's the word choice. But if you, sir, are messing with me, bro, then I don't know, maybe you're going to have to find a new job. I mean, I heard McDonald's is hiring, bro. At this point, the teacher and the spoiled kid, it's like a 1v1 face-off right now. They're both looking at each other. They both very much dislike each other at this point, and they're kind of just having a bit of a stare-off. And at this point, Finn could basically, if Finn had a butter knife on him, he could cut the tension in the room right in half. And the teacher looks at him and takes one step closer to the spoiled kid. Because the one thing the spoiled kid didn't know was that this teacher was not any old teacher. This teacher has been at the school for so many years. This teacher doesn't just have tenure, he has like tenure plus, bro. He has like the next version of tenure. This guy is entrenched in the establishment of this school. This guy is like whatever connections his dad has or whatever kind of donor this dad has, it will not have any impact. And the teacher goes up to him, the spoiled kid, and says, "Do it. Call your dad and tell him to fire me. Do it. I dare you." At this point, the spoiled kid's face went from like a smug smile to complete shock and horror because like he was convinced that this would be enough for the teacher to fold. Apparently, this has worked every other time the spoiled kid has done it. So the spoiled kid was like, "Oh my, like he's not taking it, sitting down. What?" Real quick comment, spoiled, if you made it this far into the video. I'm going to try and heart as many comments as I can, and if you want to support the channel, all you got to do is continue watching videos after this one. You can do them by looking in the recommended section for other videos, or you can go to my channel page, which has playlists. I have playlists for spoiled kids, high school stories, Karen videos, whatever you want, it's there. And by the way, if you like watching these videos on the go, I have a Spotify. It is first link in the description. It's called, or just look up Connor Pugs on Spotify. And please, if you do listen on there, rate it 5 stars and follow me. And even if you I don't know if you're a huge Spotify guy, as an incentive, every episode is put up about an hour or two early on there. So if you want a sneak peek, go to my Spotify. And finally, use code ConnorPugs for 10% off gamer subs. It helps you. It helps me submit stories to either my Instagram or Twitter account. And join the Discord server. A lot of you guys don't know we have one. It's in the description. With all that promo out of the way, let's get back into it. So Finn is sitting there as the spoiled kid versus the teacher they're facing off, right? And the teacher just dropped a bomb, basically called the spoiled kid's bluff and said, "Sure, go ahead and do it." And the spoiled kid at this point basically knows he's in defeat. So the spoiled kid is just like completely frozen. Because remember, the spoiled kid has probably used this line in other classes where he's like, "Oh, well, you know what? My dad knows a lot of trustees. My dad can totally sue you. My dad can get you out of the school. Do you want a job?" And look, as much as the teachers want to uphold integrity and a good learning environment, they also want to eat. You know what I mean? They also want to eat. So I kind of get it. But at this point, this teacher's been around for so long that he knows that, this spoiled kid's dad, I don't care if he donated to the school building, he's not doing anything, bro. Because that building has already been donated, and they don't need another one. So at this point, the spoiled kid watches as the teacher goes over, goes on his desk, grabs his paper, and walks to the front of the class. And the spoiled kid is shouting like, "I'm giving you one more chance. I'm giving you one more chance, or I'm going to call my dad, and he's going to get you fired. You know how much money my dad has? You know how much donation ability he has? You know who does know? The school. The school knows." And the teacher turns around and says, "Son, I've been here for 40 years. I know everyone who works here. I guarantee you, tell your dad to make that call and tell him that you were cheating in my class and that I caught you. And if that's the reason I get fired, then that's the way I go out." So at this point, the entire class has been derailed. And the spoiled kid gets up. He gets out of his chair. He says, "You know what? We'll see about that." And he gets up and he walks out of the class. So the teacher's like, "All right, class, I apologize for the distraction. You guys will be, unless you have other events, and then you can work that out with me, I'm tacking on another 15 minutes at the end of class just in case someone goes that far." So sure enough, right, Finn continues the test. He goes about an hour, 30 minutes in. When he completes it, he feels pretty good about it. And the aftermath of what happens is the spoiled kid never returns to the class. The spoiled kid fails the class but drops it, so it's like not part of his grade or something. And yeah, so yeah, the spoiled kid did complain to the dad, and the teacher was never fired. So yeah, that just shows you that just because your dad donates a lot of money doesn't mean that you can cheat in class. We're going to call the subscriber for the next story of a teacher owning a spoiled kid, Jake. So anyways, Jake is in the third kid. Jake is in the third grade, guys. And there's also a spoiled kid, right? There's a spoiled kid in the class. And the thing is, Jake comes from a lower income family. He isn't afforded all the newest stuff. Sometimes, the meals he has aren't the greatest. Sometimes he has to wear the same clothes again and again. Sometimes, he has to, walk to school, which makes him a bit late because his mom can't bring him in. This happens. The spoiled kid, right? And once again, just because, you have more money doesn't inherently make you a bad person. If you feel entitled and you feel like you are just a better person because you have more money, then yeah, maybe you're not so great, right? So sure enough, Jake and the spoiled kid, they're sitting down, and the spoiled kid just blatantly starts making fun of Jake. Because remember, they're in third grade, and the spoiled kid's like, Jake, you're smelling so bad today. And the thing was, right, Jake just didn't, he had to wear these clothes again. He didn't have time to wash them. He didn't have enough other pairs. He had to wear these again. And the spoiled kid's like, is that a hole I see? And the spoiled kid goes over and starts touching Jake's clothes. And Jake's like, stop, bro, can you get off of me? And the spoiled kid's like, oh, Jake, I think I've seen you wear those clothes every single day. The spoiled kid says, I pride myself in the fact that I wear a new outfit, a fresh combination of clothes every single day. Jake, I just wish that you would put in the bare minimum effort. And Jake goes on to say, hey, bro, maybe, look, I just can't afford all those clothes. That's the difference between you and me. It's not that I'm not trying to put in effort, which is this really the important place to put your effort and your clothing combinations? But nevertheless, yeah, it's not that I'm not putting in the effort. It's that I just don't have the ability to do that. And the spoiled kid says, oh, so your parents don't work as hard as me. And the thing is, right, Jake did not like to hear this because his mom worked 2 jobs. That's not what you want to hear. And she was the only one in the household who was making money. So Jake was not a fan of this at all. And Jake was like, dude, it is not a thing about how hard you work. And the spoiled kid's like, well, then why do your parents make less than mine? And just so you guys know a little bit of context, in this class, there was something called a star system. If you guys watch SpongeBob, think about the Buddy Stars and Miss Puff Bowden class. It was the same deal. I bet the teacher liked SpongeBob and was inspired by it. Basically, when you did good things, you accumulated Buddy Stars, such as continuously turning in your stuff on time, being good in class, just doing good things. And if you did bad things, you lost them. And after a certain point of Buddy Stars, you got certain privileges, such as, extended recess, you can choose not to do. There's some homeworks that you didn't have to do if you had enough Buddy Stars, stuff like that, right? And the thing was, the spoiled kid was just a little bit over the extended recess number of Buddy Stars. And all of a sudden, right, the teacher has been listening in, not all of a sudden, but throughout this conversation, the teacher who assigns and takes away the Buddy Stars has been listening to the spoiled kid berate this kid, basically, for, not being in the same financial situation as him. And Jake goes on to say, bro, this isn't cool. Mind your own business. I'm just going to go work on the thing. Because they were all assigned to work on some, arts and crafts project while they did, and that's why the spoiled kid actually came over and started taunting Jake, because he had nothing better to do, because he finished his project. And the spoiled kid's like, oh, let me look over. Seems like a lack of talent from you. Why is that, you might ask? Well, I think it's because, you're just not as good. Because, I don't know, there's other indications that make me feel that way. And Jake's like, what? What do you have to say now? And the spoiled kid's like, well, I kind of think that, how rich you are is kind of, directly proportional to how good you are as a person, like how much value you have. I don't know if he said directly proportional, but you guys get what I mean. And Jake's like, bro, like that's insane and insensitive. And the spoiled kid's like, I don't know. I mean, if you look at my arts and crafts over there, it is just significantly better. And it was not significantly better. Maybe it was like a little better, I guess, right? I guess subjectively, one could say it was better. But, like, come on now, bro. Like, let's chill out for a second. But sure enough, the spoiled kid goes on to be like, you know, maybe you should have more respect for me. Maybe, Jake, you should have more respect for your financial elders. Which, when I got a DM about this, and because I got in quotes, financial elders, I thought that was the funniest thing ever. Because you always hear, like, older people or younger people saying this expression of, like, you got to respect your elders, like, and that's because, like, there's a lot of compound knowledge. They just happen to know a lot from experience. In some cases, not everyone who's old is smart or knows a thing or two or is wise, but a lot of them are. But respect your financial elders. Basically, this spoiled kid took a actual saying that makes a lot of sense, and I think is a good rule to live by, and just basically morphed it into his like crazy conception of if your parents make money, then their descendant is just immediately a fantastic person who is better than everyone else. And at this point, right, the teacher's heard enough. And he walks over, he's like, spoiled kid, I've been listening to this conversation for the last 10 minutes. And you could see the look on the spoiled kid's face like, oh boy, I'm in trouble now. And the teacher's like, I just can't believe you truly believe these things. Like, these are really offensive notions. And Jake is kind of sitting back with a little bit of a smirk on his face because he knows for a fact what is about to happen. And the spoiled kid also knows what is about to happen because whenever the teacher confronts someone saying something not very nice, he immediately goes to the buddy stars. And the spoiled kid's like, because the spoiled kid just went over the threshold for getting enough buddy stars to have extra recess. The spoiled kid's like, no, it's not what you think. It's not what you think. I swear. It's not what you think. And the teacher's like, I'm sorry. I heard what I heard. And the teacher starts walking over to the buddy star system. And the spoiled kid turns over to Jake and is like, you did this. And you did this specifically because you hate me because I have more money than you. And Jake's like, dude, I didn't do anything. I just had a conversation with you. And they both turn around as the teacher doesn't take one buddy star off, but takes 3. And just for a little bit of context, to get over the allotted number of buddy stars to have extra recess, it was like 4. So taking 3 away, so he had 5 before, he was now down to 2. And getting buddy stars was super, super hard. And so at this point, like, Jake is like, oh yeah, bro, like this is fire. Because like he thought he was going to lose 1 buddy star, but he lost 3, which is like weeks and weeks of effort. Anyways, the moral of the story is don't think you're better than someone else because of something that you can't control. And also don't think you're worse than someone else because of something you can't control. Or even things that you can control in a lot of cases. Anyways, let's go on to the next and final story. I wanted to call the last person Princess Bubblegum because I was on the whole like Finn. You know what? Because I did Finn and Jake. I wanted to call the last person Princess Bubblegum. But who's gonna stop me? No one, not you. So I'm calling the last subscriber Princess Bubblegum, and you have to take it with a straight face. I'm doing this with a straight face. So I'm doing this straight face. Princess Bubblegum, there was a spoiled kid in class. And this spoiled kid in class, basically... So Princess Bubblegum was new to the, let's just say the 7th grade. I didn't really get a specific grade that she was in, but we're just going to say the 7th grade because judging by the rest of the story, it makes about sense there. So Princess Bubblegum, this is the name I'm using. She's normal, so don't think of actual Princess Bubblegum. But Princess Bubblegum was new to the 7th grade of a new high school. Her mom or dad recently changed jobs, so they had to move to a whole new place. And, she was freshly enrolled in the new high school that happened to be in her new location. So anyways, right, she's getting there. She walks in, and on the first day, she sits down. She's nervous. I mean, who wouldn't be nervous, right? It's a nerve-wracking thing. And she sits down, and the teacher's like, hey, everyone, I'd like you to welcome... And says, hey, what's your name again? She said, Princess Bubblegum. I'd like you to welcome Princess Bubblegum to the class. Everyone's like, hello, Princess Bubblegum. Welcome, right? And there's also a spoiled kid in this class. and we're going to call him Spoiled Kid. And the Spoiled Kid had like slicked back hair. He wore sunglasses in class, even though his teachers told him many times, like, dude, can you not do that? That looks weird. And he's like, no, you can't stop me. And like they got him in trouble a few times. But now he just like permanently wears like, I don't know, aviator sunglasses, trying to be like, you know, the coolest dude ever. He's also got a super fancy watch on that he got for his like 13th birthday party, or his 13th birthday from his parents, which I don't know about you, but I think I got like a Star Wars action figure, which it was fire. I'm sure I loved it. Like, don't get me wrong. I would have liked that a lot more than a watch, bro. But I'm just saying, who's dishing out a Rolex to some like 13-year-old kid? Anyways, though, the Spoiled Kid's like, what, like immediately, as soon as like the teacher wasn't like teaching class, like there was some lull, or maybe they're like, oh, go and do some project or something. The Spoiled Kid immediately sits next to Princess Bubblegum and is like, what's good, baby? My name's Spoiled Kid. Obviously, you know, says his real name, as Princess Bubblegum's not her real name, but she's like, oh, hi there. My name's Princess Bubblegum. You know, I just moved into the town, and therefore, like, I'm starting high school here. I don't really know that many people. Like, how's it going? He's like, it's good. My day was okay, but then it was great when you blessed my presence. And she's like, okay, nice. Anyways, though, you know, I'm excited to be here, and is there anything I should know before I move in? Like, I don't know. Is there something I should know about the town or a good place to go? He's like, oh, baby, I know so many good places. You know, I know so many good places that I could take you. I can drive. And she's like, what? Because the thing is, right, you know, she really can't, he can't actually drive legally. I think he's like 15 or something. And she's like, wait, you can drive? He's like, well, I mean, not legally, but yeah, I do. Basically, Dad just lets me, like, he's a leftover G-Wagon. He just lets me ride it around. So, babe, if you want to hop in my new whip, just give me a call and I totally got you. And she's like, okay. At this point, Princess Bubblegum was starting to realize that, okay, maybe this guy has other intentions that I kind of didn't even realize at first. Like, okay, let's try and back out of this respectfully. So then the Spoiled Kid goes on to say, so, baby, what are you doing tonight after school? I can definitely take you out on my new whip. At this point, the teacher starts to, like, overhear this conversation. And Princess Bubblegum is like, well, you know, I should really be home with my parents. You know, we're still unpacking, still getting acclimated. He's like, okay, babe, so what about this weekend? Yo, how's that going for you? Baby doll. He just starts saying stuff like that. And she's like, well, I don't know, this weekend, I just don't know if I should be going out. The Spoiled Kid's like, babe, you know that I got that bread, right? And she's like, sure, okay. He's like, babe, I don't know. I know you want me. I just don't totally get why you're just not going full in. Why you're just not embracing my love like you should. And she's kind of just like, yo, what? At this point, the teacher started to be like, hey, bro. And sure enough, Princess Bubblegum's like, hey, look, appreciate the offer. I just don't want to be in any relationships this early. I just got to get to know people. I want to make some friends. I'd love to be your friend. And not really, but like, I'd love to be your friend. Okay, she didn't say not really, but you know what I mean. She's like, I'd love to be your friend, but I think I have to just start as that at a minimum. I can't rush into a relationship. And the Spoiled Kid is like, gets really upset. And he's like, what? Dude, did you not hear me? I literally have a G-Wagon to ride around in. I have the fattest whip ever. Do you see the ice on my wrist? He like whips around his hand with this like Rolex on. He starts shaking it around. And he's like, I just don't get it. Like, why do you hate yourself? Because you obviously hate yourself if you don't want to go with me. Because, dude, I have a fat whip and drip on my wrist. And at this point, the teacher steps in. He's like, hey, Spoiled Kid. Spoiled Kid's like, sup, teach? He's like, please don't, stop pressuring this young lady. She made it very clear that she's not into you. And just because, you have a quote-unquote nice whip, whatever the kids are calling cars now these days, and that you have a nice watch, doesn't mean that, this lady's going to like you. She's made it quite clear, and at this point, you're just making her uncomfortable. Teacher completely came out of the blue and just, boom, explosion right in the spoiled kid's face, basically. And every single person turns around and looks at him. And the spoiled kid's like, teacher, I don't think you understand. She definitely is into me. So the teacher's like, all right, well, Bubblegum, not to put you on the spot, but are you? And, Princess Bubblegum, a little annoyed by the spoiled kid, is like, no, I'm sorry. Spoiled kid's like, you'll regret this when I got an even hotter babe in my whip. And he goes to the back of the classroom. So after class, Princess Bubblegum is approached by a group of girls. And, Bubblegum kind of knows, like, Mean Girls, I don't know, high school dynamics or middle school dynamics. She's just expecting to be bullied by these girls, but the girls come up and they say, I'm so sorry about Tyler back there. Let's call the spoiled kid Tyler. She's like, it's okay, it's whatever. And they're like, no, it's not. You're new here. Like, that's not okay for him to make you feel uncomfortable on the first day. You know what, girls? We've been talking about it, and we want you, Bubblegum, to hang out with us. Bubblegum's like, oh, like, thank you. And from that day on, Bubblegum met her new group of friends. And Tyler, the spoiled kid, still to this day has unsuccessfully seduced any women with his fat whip and his
Click on the video on
dripped-out
screen right now.
wrist.
I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.